What does it mean to be a champion? It means outlasting pure chaos. And a crash! Ward Kyle Keith goes hard into the wall, brings Steven Stepien along with him, and taking pride in being oh so close.
I know it's the thing we finished in second. It seems like week after week, but those second place finishes will come back with consistency.
It means taking control at the right moments. Lawson Peel wins his 4th playoff race in a row, and embracing the role of the unsung hero. Brandon Banks wins at Kansas. Cedric Hunter, winner at Charlotte. And for one of the 4 drivers stepping into this race tonight, only one will fully understand the meaning. The Droppin the Hammah Cup Series Championship from Homestead-Miami starts now. There are several ways to define yourself champion. For 4 drivers, the way to define that title is up for discretion in one final race to carve one special name in the nightcap of the first ever Droppin the Hammah season. Live from Homestead-Miami Speedway, the KBueno Racing Network wishes you a warm welcome to the final chapter of the inaugural season of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series and exclusive coverage of the championship race. And so happy that you're joining us on the KBueno Racing Network for tonight's coverage, where in the broadcast booth here from virtual Homestead-Miami, I am Kenneth Bueno. Well, one thing is certain in all in love in war when it comes down to this 4-wide championship or Droppin the Hammah Cup Series championship, it means that it is going to be all out no matter what. And for 4 drivers, they have been able to put themselves in very interesting positions despite the obstacles, despite everything, and now they're here with one final shot at getting this championship tonight. There are so many things that go into a championship run, whether it be full-on consistency, whether it be some magic at the right time, and we've got a healthy mix of all of that in the quartet that we have that'll take the green flag with a chance at running for the title later on this season. We have a lot to talk to you about before we get into the actual racing coverage tonight from virtual South Florida. Just before we do that, though, let's dive into what transpired last week. A super speedway thriller at Hampton, Georgia, Echo Park Speedway, the newly renovated 1.5-mile super speedway oval that hosted the green flag. Steven Stepien and Stephen Harlow among those up front. And one thing we took notice of in the early segment of the race, handling mattered so much. Stephen Harlow getting loose there in the middle of 3 and 4 as Stephen Maggio, rookie driver, climbed up through the field. Very swimmingly, he would take over the lead from the outside lane early on, with help from likes of Kip Easley. And then trouble. Lawson Peel, the 9-time race winner, getting loose, slamming the outside wall in turns 3 and 4 will lead us to the final lap in stage number 1 and the tandem for Category 5 Esports. Boy, we've seen this so much over the year already between these 2 cars, both of them fighting for the title. Zachary Hall, the winner in stage number 1. Only one of a handful of stage wins he has this season. Doesn't have much, but he has that consistency that can get him to the title tonight. Then it was a bit of an awkward scenario. They didn't come down pit road when they were supposed to in turn 3. Thus, they were falling to the back of the field. Cedric Hunter will fall a lap down. So did Zachary Hall. Big time trouble here off of turn 4. Alex Muscarella getting turned around. Chris Progar and several others involved in one of the biggest crashes we would see for the night. But the great racing would continue. Stepien and others still trying to break down the guard that Stephen Maggio had on the rest of the field. And then big time trouble with Steven Stepien. This would ultimately seal his playoff hopes at running for a championship. Hard interior contact with the likes of Richard Swabley, then hard outside wall contact as they were coming to the quad oval down the start finish line. The racing would continue from then on out. We would stay green, and through strategy, Stephen Maggio was able to stay at the front until a pivotal caution came out right here. Kip Easley, Zachary Hall, Lawson Peel among those involved in the largest crash we would see for the night. Despite a lot of the clean racing, obviously things will boil over, and that will lead us to a restart inside the final few laps where Stephen Maggio just took control, and that was all she wrote. The 97 car would come away off of the final corner with all of the momentum. Drivers behind would try to get to the inside, but it was too little, too late. 4th career Droppin the Hammah Cup Series win for Stephen Maggio, and as he continues his rookie stellar campaign all of the playoff drivers now starting to worry about where their chances at winning are coming through, especially as we dive into Homestead-Miami tonight. Second consecutive playoff race to which we see a non-playoff winner. Craig Parks was the first driver to do it. Now Steven Maggio does it all over again from Echo Park Speedway. So as Maggio stole a potential crowning moment for those at the bottom 4 of the round of 8 trying to get past that cut line deficit, here is where we stand after 23 races of the regular season and the playoffs. We are here, Homestead-Miami Speedway, to crown a champion between 4 drivers. Brandon Banks in the 5, Cedric Hunter in the 45, Lawson Peel in the 9, and Zachary Hall in the 23. A bunch of wins combined between all 4 of those drivers. Lots of great finishes, and it's 2 teams versus each other. Drinkin' Bros Racing on one side and Category 5 Esports on the other. So the show is going to be wild as soon as we jump into it. Why don't we try to talk to one of the playoff drivers that is going into tonight's race with a chance at a championship in the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series for the very first time. And with that, we are joined by our first guest from the Championship 4 in Cedric Hunter. Cedric, we'll talk about this setup in a moment because I'm liking the VR goggles, but you're stepping into your first ever Championship 4 appearance in this series. Overall, what are the thoughts and anticipations as you dive into tonight's event?
Yeah, I'm super excited. A little bit nervous, obviously. The racing tonight will be interesting. Just based on my qualifying so far, like I think that obviously the car's gonna be really tight. I've kind of struggled on the longer run, especially with exiting the corners. So I'm gonna have to watch out for that throughout the race. But I think it'll be a fun one. I'm really looking forward to it.
Obviously, you got a teammate in there, Zachary Hall. You've got the 2 Drinkin' Bros Racing guys that seemingly have been strong all season long. How do you try and balance that, the play between teammate driving versus individual driving, especially in a Championship 4 format like this where it rewards being ahead of the other 3 and it's everyone for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Zach and I will probably help each other out as we normally do. And then when it comes to, I guess, the last stage, I mean, the goal is obviously, like, I want to win the championship for myself. But if I can't do that, then I want to try and put Zach in the best possible situation to help him out get there. So I think that it'll still be teammate stuff probably up until the last run. And then from there on, I guess we'll still be smart about it. But, you know, Zach and I both want to win it. So we'll do whatever it takes to get it done.
Based on how this season has gone, you've got that one win from Charlotte that was a big-time one in the first race of the playoffs, mind you, so it really set the tone for what this category of racing did for you. And over the course of the season, lots of consistency, great finishes across the board. What is it going to take tonight to capture the checkered flag or just capture the championship if you don't win this race outright? And what would it mean to you to capture this first ever Droppin the Hammah Cup Series title?
It's going to take a little bit of luck, I'm not going to lie. Like, obviously, the other 3 competitors are really, really, really fast. And I think clean air on the last run's probably going to be everything. So we just have to put ourselves, I guess we will probably have to, for the first 120 laps or so, we have to put ourselves in a position where we can be up front for the last run. And obviously, winning the championship would be fantastic. Heading into it, at the beginning of the season, I was thinking that I was probably going to be, or at least I was hoping I was going to be one of the favorites to at least get into the final 4, and we kind of narrowly got there. Obviously, being on the cut line for pretty much every round, so it's not like we convincingly got here. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like kind of one of the underdogs, if you will, going into it. So. Just really happy to be here. Hopefully we can put on a good show, and hopefully I'll have a conversation with you in 200 laps, after tonight's race.
Well, Cedric, we really appreciate the time. Best of luck in your pursuit for Droppin the Hammah Cup Series Championship, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Category 5 Esports has one strong Cedric Hunter, straps on the VR headset, just getting ready for this race tonight from virtual Homestead-Miami. Let's bring in the secondary effort for the Category 5 Esports camp, and that is the main man, Zachary Hall, in the number 23. Zachary, you've got a great season building up. Obviously, lots of podiums to your names, great finishes overall. You've got your teammate in Cedric Hunter that has helped you along the way, but your strength has been noted for sure. As you jump into tonight's race, what kind of emotions are you carrying, and what kind of mindset do you want to carry once we take the green flag later tonight?
Yeah, this is gonna be a tough one, Kenneth. I'm nervous because I don't know what to expect. I didn't get the time this week to really put in any preparation, so kind of going off of just instinct, and I think it's gonna be really tight. So I think just following is gonna be tough, but we got a lot of laps, and I think that's the biggest thing. I just need to be moldable. That's gonna be the word tonight. I need to be able to change what maybe I started at the beginning, it might not work, but I just need to be willing to try different things. So I'm definitely worried, but I think if we can pull it off here at the end and get a win finally, that would be a way to cap it off.
We've raced several intermediate tracks this season, but it feels like none really compare to what Homestead-Miami Speedway is. In essence, it's one of those tracks that when it is the finale, you only see it once a season and really never again. So what kind of challenges do you find driving this specific track with this car, and what you'll try to learn, especially through the first two stages of tonight's event?
You know, I really love this track. It's one of the tracks that you really got to hit your marks, save your tires, and really drive smooth. And I think that's one of the styles that really helps me is just continually hitting a point that you need to hit over and over again. So I'm hoping that helps pay off here tonight. I mean, I've been good here in the past, just learning some things still with this new building the intermediate stuff. I think that's really the big thing. You gotta figure these things out. I felt good at Kansas, so if we can take some of that momentum and carry it tonight, I think we're gonna have a good shot.
Well, Zachary, we really appreciate the time. Best of luck in this championship finale, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you soon after the 200 green flag laps.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Zachary Hall jumps into this race with a chance at the championship alongside his teammate in Cedric Hunter. That seems to be the theme over the course of the night, is the fact that you're going to be running perhaps with your teammates and you're going to be fighting against them at the same time. So it means it is going to be a lot of fun when we jump into tonight's race. However, as we get into the event, now let's jump into the third driver who will join us tonight on behalf of Drinkin' Bros Racing. That is the driver of the number 5 car and winner from Kansas to get into this championship finale in Brandon Banks. Brandon, first of all, thank you for joining us. Congrats on making it this far to the championship 4. It's been a long route. You won your way in from Kansas. You didn't have to worry for the 2 super speedway events. Now as you lock in for Homestead, how important has that extra time been for you in preparing for this final race?
No, honestly, it's going to be tough. I mean, all 3 of these other guys in the championship are good at this track, so we're going to have to pretty much just try to keep it out of trouble and run our own race. So if we do that, I think we'll be okay.
You go into this finale, of course, with those 2 intermediate track wins. It feels like this type of track is made for you, especially in the context of this season. So how important is a race like tonight in Homestead, given that it is a hard-to-drive, tire-wearing, mile-and-a-half track, and how are you going to try to use that to your advantage here as we take the green?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of falls into our wheelhouse. I'm pretty decent at saving tires. And like I said, at Kansas, I feel like we had kind of an upper hand on majority of the faster guys that normally run really good at Kansas, and kind of get the tire thing figured out before they did. So hopefully we're still kind of ahead of the game and we can kind of use that to our advantage. I think it's if we get some long green flag runs, I think that'll work out better for us for sure.
Well, Brandon, best of luck in this championship finale, and hopefully it ends up with you being the title holder at Homestead. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, Kenneth.
That is Drinkin' Bros Racing's Brandon Banks as he brings himself to the racetrack. We are just moments away from getting the green flag here from Homestead. We'll talk to one final driver, and that is the most dominant driver of the season, Lawson Peel, going into this event with 9 career race victories in his Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series career, and it is going to be one big finale. Lawson, you joined this series and you immediately take off. 9 wins since Daytona, and we jump into this championship finale with you perhaps being the most dominant driver here out of the 4 historically, especially when it comes to Sunoco Cup action. What is it going to take from your end to try and capture this first ever DTH Cup Series title?
Yeah, we'll see. The track and the car and everything, conditions are a lot different post-update here, so we're just going to have to see how it goes. It could be another, Kansas type situation where, it just fits some people's driving style and it doesn't others. And so I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. It should be a nice long race. I'm sure we're going to get some green flag runs in here, go into the night, and the track's going to change as the race goes on. So I'm looking forward to that. I think by the end, hopefully it'll come to me and be a little bit better, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope we have a great race out here.
Hopefully it ends up being fun. One final question here. I was talking to Brandon about it and the other drivers. It's almost funny because you've got two drivers on either side, part of the same team. You and Brandon in that DVR camp, Cedric and Zachary are part of Cap 5 Esports. How is it going to be to balance that level of competition between the teammates at first versus when you're in that final sector and it's all every man for himself?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Kind of a 2v2 situation. Obviously, I think all four of us deserve to be here. We've all had a great season, and I'm going to be very happy and content with, no matter who wins it. I've had a lot of success, in the precursor to this league, and I've just enjoyed. I think this season's really just been a bonus for all of us, and just glad to see what was the Sunoco Cup Series continue on, and appreciate Stimpy and Kunkel and Alex and Progar and everybody that made that happen. So I'm just glad to be here and be a part of it. I don't know how much more racing we'll do, with this group. And so I've just enjoyed it. And it's what we're going to try to do tonight as well.
Well, Lawson, we really appreciate the time. The chat is kind of roasting you for the camera. It was a bit of not quality good on our stream.
I have no idea what's going on.
I'm sure it's not from your end. It's probably from ours. But Lawson, thank you so much for the time. Best of
No
luck
problem.
in this championship finale.
Yep. And sorry for joining late, but you guys have a good broadcast.
Lawson Peel jumping into this with 9 career race victories, and the fact that if you count Sunoco Cup Series history, he has won the last 3 of those championships. So a lot riding on the shoulders of Lawson Peel to continue to make history and dive into the record books at a track where he considers one of his very best on the sim. Let's jump trackside and give you tonight's starting grid for the final race of the Season 1 Droppin the Hammah Cup Series title from Homestead-Miami, and on the front row, a pair of now non-playoff drivers. Stephen Harlow eliminated after last week's round of 8 event at the Echo Park Speedway. He's going to try and kick it off with a bang here at Homestead. 32.624 gets the 11 car first on the front row, and Steven Maggio searching for his 5th ever DTH Cup Series win in just several starts. The 97 car and the Cairo, New York native starts on the outside of the front row. Inside row 2 is where you'll find Warren Kyle Keith, now a non-playoff competitor, but trying to still get that first career victory, with Zachary Hall, the first of the 4 championship drivers, fighting for the title this evening. His number 23 car rolls off on the outside in 4th place. Back in P5, you'll find the TOW Racing number 20 of Justin Erb. His car rolls off 5th. Daniel Holdcroft with a great qualifying effort in his number 31. He'll roll off in position number 6. Back in row number 7, or row number 4, 7th place, you'll find Richard Swavely in his number 32 car. Rookie Jeff Gilmore in his 57 Chevrolet rolls off outside in P8, before you find James Kunkel 9th, and the first of the non-qualifiers, the second of the Championship 4, 9-time race winner in Lawson Peel. Back in row 6 is the Cedric Hunter machine in the number 45 from 11th. The last of the Championship 4 is Brandon Banks. His 5 car rolls off from 12th. He was the winner at our last mile-and-a-half race, not a super speedway, at Kansas to get into this round. Craig Parks in the 17, 2-time race winner from both Talladega races. Alex Muscarella in the 48, outside in 14th place. Brad Fulham, the Canadian, is going to be 15th. Chris Progar, the league owner, going to be in 16th place in his number 7. And rounding out the final row tonight, Casey Knighton and Kevin Roy down to P18. Well, as the drivers continue around this virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, let's get a look at your SK Sim Racing race analysis before we get started here tonight. It is the typical format of our mile-and-a-half races this season, 200 laps. Hopefully we can get it through mostly green. Stages are 50 laps apiece between 1 and 2, and then we'll go that final stage, a triple-digit margin, 100 laps to get us to the checkered flag. It was the similar format we had last week at Echo Park Speedway. It has been the formula for all of our mile-and-a-half races this season, so as we jump into this one, it will be another remarkable feat. So one final drive to go from Homestead-Miami Speedway, and the field will be in the hands of Stephen Harlow and Zachary Hall, on the outside of row number 1. It appears qualifying has kind of gone awry, and Steven Maggio will be starting from the very back. As we've already taken the green flag in this championship race, Stephen Harlow up at the front, Zachary Hall P2 into lap number 6. Apologies there, we were on the replay as we were diving into that championship finale, just trying to get ourselves through the grid. But Stephen Harlow up and away early. Zachary Hall pointing to the inside, and Steven Maggio, remember, started outside of the front row. He had dropped all the way back to 8th in this effort through the first 6 laps. It's Harlow, Hall, Swavely, Keith, and Peel back to turn 1. Harlow maintaining that inside groove. Very popular here at the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. A lot of drivers down to the white line where Zachary Hall is, getting a bit of that clean air. And now here comes the green banner, number 23, with a chance at the race lead back to turn 1. Again, in this Championship 4 format, not all about trying to be the first car to win this race. It's the first car amongst the group of 4. Swivel, Harlow outside turn 2, and here comes Hall to the inside. Hall down low, still maintaining that pressure on Harlow. And as they fight to turn 1, side draft for the 23 car, Hall points and pivots to the inside of the racetrack, and new race leader at lap number 9, Zachary Hall to the front off turn 2. And if you missed those opening laps like we didn't see on the KBueno Racing Network, couldn't call this championship race green. But already sideways now, Richard Swavely in trouble right in front of Warren Kyle Keith and hard into the inside wall. Yellow flag out for the first time tonight, and it is the Rick man involved, the only car involved. And it's hard. Front and nose damage. Cedric Hunter just getting in late. And after 10 green flag laps, he will be under the yellow flag just a 5th of the way through this first stage. And he was already sideways off of turn 4 and might have just gotten the help from Warren Kyle Keith as he was coming off the exit. So another look here from the 32 car, riding the seam on the high side. And we've seen before, these seams at Homestead, they're very, very susceptible to spinning the car around. It already got Swavely sideways, and in the wrong place, wrong time was Warren Kyle Keith. Nowhere to go. Slapped the back bumper, and all of a sudden Swavely had for that trajectory to the inside wall. Keith was inside that top 5, and all of a sudden the St. Augustine, Florida native, going to have some trouble here on the opening few. Here's a look. And there's nowhere to go. Not sure if he picked up too much front end nose damage on his number 78 car, but it appears we are going to be okay, and we will be under the first yellow, rolling behind the pace car with Zachary Hall in control for the very first time. Didn't take long for the Newport, North Carolina native to find his way to the front, and the only driver in this Championship 4 not to have at least one race win this season. He has some of the best top 5 finish categories, top 10 finish categories. He's finished in top 10 in all but only one playoff race in this format. So consistency has mattered for Zachary Hall this season, although the wins haven't been there. And just to give you a scope, 7 runner-up finishes for Hall this season. That's the most of any driver in the year over this inaugural campaign. So Hall knows a thing or two about being so close but not being there yet. But he's gotten enough points and enough confidence to weave into this championship finale. And right now he has the upper edge. Although moving up to the field, and a driver that never usually qualifies in this series in Lawson Peel, the Columbus, Mississippi native, has already sliced his way to 3rd. And with this not large field count and with a ton of guys, especially at the back, not taking qualifying times, Peel was actually the first driver not to take a Q effort, and he still ended up in 10th. So a much better starting spot than the average for the 9 car, as throughout the entire season he started beneath the top 15, sometimes outside the top 20. And even despite that, by either stage 1 finish or stage 2 finish, this 9 car is always at the front, either fighting for top 5 or fighting for the lead. And already making up that battle and doing so over the first 12 laps. So not as much grueling effort he has to put in for the rest of this opening stage. And just a quick update, Daniel Holtzcroft, the 31 car, we saw his good qualifying effort to put him inside the top 10. He has DNF'd, not entirely sure why, but The 31 car has fallen 7+ laps down. He is our first official driver out of the race. So a Toyota and a Chevrolet. Zachary Hall and Stephen Harlow will be the first two to lead us back to the green flag, our first green flag restart. And while we weren't able to call this championship race green on behalf of my fault, says the producer, let's see if we can try to call this restart. With Zachary Hall and Stephen Harlow on the front row, Lawson Peel and Warren Kyle Keith behind in the second row. Green flag, championship racing from lap 13. A great start by Hall and an even better jump by the 9-time winner in Lawson Peel, pointing to the inside on Stephen Harlow. He'll take away second. And now it's a fight between the two green banner cars, Toyota Chevrolet, at the front as they single file through the top 5. And if you want to look further back, one of the drivers who started last out of the championship group but has already made his way past center cutter, Brandon Banks, the PaulsCars.com Chevrolet, and the South Carolinian already trying to chop through Stephen Maggio and Warren Kyle Keith. Pretty calm and collected jumping into this championship race, of course knowing that he didn't have to run through the gauntlet at both Talladega and Echo Park Speedway, two of the super speedways to close out the round of 8 this season. He just had to win Kansas, dominated that affair. That was all she wrote. Didn't even show up to the Echo Park Speedway race, just understanding that he did not need a win, and he was in a fantastic spot. But so far, front row seat of this battle for what's going to be P4 on the racetrack outside of turn 2. Warren Kyle Keith playing defense on Stephen Maggio. Stephen Maggio, of course, in that 97 car, picked up the most recent win at the Echo Park Speedway, and he's got 4 wins already this season. He's the only driver this year to have more than 4 wins that is not named Lawson Peel, who has 9. There are 2 other drivers with a pair of wins. Of course, Banks right behind him in the rearview mirror, and Craig Parks, the other Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolet, with those 2 Talladega victories. So Maggio up inside of the top 5. Warren Kyle Keith still waiting to see when that 97 car will pounce. And so far, everyone's eyes are on the race leader right now. Zachary Hall continuing to patrol by just about 4 to 5 car lengths and a margin of half a second or more on the second place machine in Lawson Peel. And the real story for Zachary Hall is the way to embrace not being able to win yet. Of course, it only takes 1 win in a playoff format like this to either advance or get your way in through the regular season. And in the case of this championship 4, you really just have to be ahead of the other 3. But as we've seen in seasons past, it usually what comes down to the final laps is the 4 drivers at the front battling for the race win. So more often than not, it comes with a sense of urgency being in this final round, understanding that you've got to be at least one of the few best cars. There is going to be that exception that there's a pure dominator out there on the racetrack, but for most of it, especially here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, it is be the best and you will win the title. If you're not the best and you're not the winner at the end of the race at 200 laps, in this case, you are not going to be hoisting the trophy once that checkered flag falls. Here comes Maggio again, pinpointing down to the inside. And that should help Brandon Banks and Cedric Hunter continue to creep forward. Again, those 2 drivers also not taking a qualifying effort alongside Lawson Peel. And so it really hasn't been the greatest start to the race for those 2 cars, but given the amount of drivers in this field, 17 to start, only 16 now, with 15 on the lead lap, Richard Swavely being that final car a part of this lead group, it's really going to be easier for the likes of Banks and for Hunter to slightly move their way up to the front of this field. Onboard look with the 97 car, the Cairo, New York native of Stephen Maggio running in P5. Maggio told us in Victory Lane last week at Echo Park Speedway, not entirely confident in his skills here at Homestead-Miami. Of course, took part of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series finale here just several months ago, a part of that Championship 4. And although he didn't have the best ever race, didn't win the title at the end, it was still a great effort to put that 51 car in the top 3 in championship order. And really giving himself a case as the second place driver at the time in Curtis Kelly, as they were all chasing the likes of Brandon Hawken, who ended up winning that title. But Maggio comes into this perhaps with a little more confidence and a bit more of that aggression, understanding that he is not part of the championship fight. And of course, he doesn't want to ruin any of the storylines for the 4 green bannered cars. But just understanding his level of consistency and his level of understanding and learning in an adaptive situation like this, Maggio could easily be one of the title contenders or one of the race-winning contenders amongst the title group. Caution flag flies for the second time. Trouble on the back straightaway. And there's all damage already to the 19 of Brad Fulham. It appears solo car incident. And we'll have our second yellow at lap 22. And I believe it's a similar situation to what we saw with Richard Swavely earlier on tonight. Car perhaps just stepped out loose. This is off turn 2. And you have no help from behind, no help from other drivers, and a pancaked hit. That is a very difficult place to hit the inside wall. There's a bit of a jut there that allows some of these safety trucks to get onto the back straightaway as quickly as possible. And for Brad Fulham, it appears to be trouble there. Damage on the left front and the left rear of his number 19 Toyota Camry, one of the Canadian drivers in this series. And so we will be under the yellow for the second time as we approach the midway point of stage 1. And now it's going to be interesting to see if anyone comes down pit road. It appears everyone, apart from Casey Knighton and the lot in the back of the field, Kevin Roy and the likes of Richard Swavely, of course, coming back down for damage repair. There's Casey Knighton up at the front. Brad Fulham with that damage from the spill. He's going to be back there. So all of those drivers perhaps not taking strategy calls. This is really for damage repair. All of those machines at the front will be just trying to claw their way through this first stage, which they can all make on fuel. The real question and the real concern is going to be what is left of their tires at the end of this stint. We know with this next-gen update, the tires wear down much quicker, and when you combine that with the dirty air and the handling effects of this next-gen car aerodynamically, tires are going to wear much quicker than they ever did on the sim. And so getting fresh tires with the sets that we have, I believe 5 to 6 sets total that we have on the driver base for each driver tonight, it will be a big waiting game to see who comes in when. Well, let's join the driver of the 97 running in P5 right now. That is our race winner from last week, Steven Maggio. Steven, thank you so much for joining us. I guess a couple yellows in the first 23, but anything that you've taken feedback-wise from this car in this first run?
It's going to change as the night goes on, but it feels a little bit loose right now. Only on the throttle, though. Other than that, I feel like it's pretty good, and I'm just trying to wrap the bottom. I haven't really explored too much outside of that, and yeah, still just going to try to see how it handles and changes throughout the night.
Taking the green flag here on this next restart, what's it going to take kind of to move up to the front and find your way back in the lead?
Yeah, just going to be patient. I think the tires will still matter if we can go green to the end of the stage here, and just kind of, I'll be a little bit more aggressive now because I know that we have a caution coming up, so I'm not going to like fall super far back if I kill myself. But yeah, just trying to be aware of all the championship drivers and everything.
Well, Steven, we really appreciate the time. Best of luck on this restart. We know you have one final message you want to send out there.
Yeah, so my teammate, and I'm sure most of you guys know him, Jaden Porter, and I consider my friend as well. His dad is in the hospital right now, so if you guys could please say some prayers for him. I know that he's asking everyone to say a lot of prayers for him, and we're hoping to see some more improvements as we have today. So yeah, just prayers out to Jaden's father, and hopefully he makes a full recovery. Thank you for the time.
Joining you in that message, of course, in that sentiment, Steven. Thanks for the time, and best of luck on the restart.
Yep.
Of course, our good friend and KBueno Racing driver, Jaden Porter, big name on the KBueno Racing Network. His dad in the hospital right now. Again, all of our thoughts and positive messages will go to him, and hopefully he's okay. Hopefully we'll get some good updates from Jaden very soon. Our thoughts with him as we restart this race, lap number 25, and a great jump from Zachary Hall. Peels out to the front. Stephen Harlow, much like Peel did on the recent restart, getting that inside lane from the second row. He'll have the nose in front. Peel ripping the boards off turn 2, loose down the back straightaway, but he'll have second. He looks for the lead. Peel down the bottom. And a look for the first switch of the championship 4. And Hall will fight right back through the middle. Wiggle in the middle of turn 4. They'll remain side by side. and Lawson Peel at the stripe. First change of the championship lead. The 9-time race winner points in front into turn 1. And how about that drive? At first it was defense on Stephen Harlow, who's now in the ringer with Warren Kyle Keith and Steven Maggio. They're playing defense back there for third on back. But Rip the Boards used the high side momentum to take advantage of Zachary Hall and the most dominant driver of the year back in a familiar place, back in front of this event with Zachary Hall just about 3/10 behind, and Maggio finally crawling his way up to third after restarting in 5th. Here's the onboard look from Peel. Always so stout, Lawson Peel is on these 1.5-mile tracks. Of course, several race wins at this style of speedway. But we haven't seen him win since his last victory. I believe it was at Darlington. And although he has been on fire throughout these playoffs, the round of 8 kind of cooled off for the 9-time race winner this season. But looking to try and recapture that magic from his Las Vegas win earlier this season, his Texas Motor Speedway win in the middle of the round of 12. And so here he is, just trying to hold on to the track position again. Still early in this race, though. Going to be about 20 laps to go in 2 laps time for the ending of stage number 1. And this is really going to be the point where the track is going to start to change. The sun will start to set here in South Florida. So all that glare that the drivers get down the front straightaway entering turn 1, that'll be no longer there. But the track surface will change. And just like Maggio told us in that short interview under yellow, it's a bit on the looser side for him now. All about maintaining what's going to be the right rear tire. Spinner off of turn 2, trouble. James Kunkel down low. And he saves the race car. Wonderful job for Kunkel. A D Legacy Motor Club number 42 keeps it straight and will stay green. So far, so good through the front-running group. Now Cedric Hunter, that bright pink Hello Kitty Toyota Camry, moves his way forward. Brendan Banks might have been just the biggest loser on that restart there. Dropped from the edge of the top 5, now back to 7th in the middle of non-playoff competition. Alex Muscarella, who is a lapped car, is going to be in this group, but Stephen Harlow is the man to beat when it comes down to track position. He's holding on to P6 as Maggio holds off the hard charge by Warren Kyle Keith off the back straightaway, or rather front straightaway, on the back end of turn 4. And here comes Maggio running the wall with a chance to beat Zachary Hall off of turn 2. This will help Lawson Peel stay in the middle of the front. Again, dirty air is so prominent with this next-gen update, so any chance that Peel has of putting some non-playoff cars in the middle of the group, it will surely help his cause. But Maggio again staying up high, being loyal to gain the momentum off the corner. So far, no dice as he rolls off turn 4. And now here he goes. Peel off to the inside. And our first battle for second in a little while. Steven Maggio down low on the apex. Zachary Hall washing up high. And that's exactly what Lawson Peel wanted to see. Separation. And it's non-playoff driver playing spoiler. Zachary Hall will try the crossover at the exit of turn 4. And the Category 5 Esports Toyota would not let up yet with his teammate in sight from the rear view mirror. Maggio plays the defense. Hall is sideways in the middle of turn 2. And that's going to kill his run middle, 3 wide. And what a blunder for Zachary Hall in the middle of the corner. And on the bottom end of the speedway where we've seen drivers have a ton of grip, it is no dice for the 23 car as the battle for what is going to be now second in the championship battle is going to step back to 5th. Cedric Hunter down the bottom, Brandon Banks on the outside. And a spinner down low. It's Steven Maggio right in front of the group. He'll spill down the apron in the access road. Will we stay green? I believe we're going to stay green at lap 34. Now the yellow flies, and the pace car will come out as Steven Maggio bobbled in the middle of 1 and 2, chased it down the track dangerously right in front of the green banner cars in the championship fight, and we will be under yellow for the 3rd time tonight from Homestead with 16 to go until stage 1 is complete. We mentioned Maggio running the top just to get good momentum off the corners, had beaten Zachary Hall in the middle of 1 and 2. And it appears that right rear tire perhaps went away a little bit as he was driving into the corner, and he just had to go down that progressive banking trying to keep it alive. So here is how it all started with the number 97 car. There was Warren Kyle Keith behind him by just about 3 to 4 car lengths as they come into turn 1. And watch how loose he gets. Not sure if there was aero packing involved or whether this car just stepped out, but it looked loose from the get-go at the entry of turn 1. Down the gear, down the banking right in front of Harlow, Hunter, Hall, and Banks. And in the attempt to save it through the grass at the pit road access lane, and the car just steps out sideways, luckily able to hop into the brakes before he catches the inside wall. So more favorable than what we saw with Brad Fulham, where unfortunately he wasn't able to escape that wall. But for Maggio, it is going to be flat spotted tires. He will be down pit road very early on, and so will a majority of the championship competitors. Lawson Peel is down. Cedric Hunter and company are also in. Brandon Banks is in as well. And our first proper yellow flag call down pit road wholesale service for the title contenders. And an easy race off pit road. Lawson Peel will have it. Although there are drivers that did stay out. None of them a part of the championship fight, but 4 non-playoff competitors, starting with Warren Kyle Keith, going to take the lead for the first time tonight. Stephen Harlow, Justin Urban, James Kunkel going to round out the top 4 that'll stay out here, looking for their first set of tires to be expended when that stage caution comes out. And back at Echo Park Speedway, we didn't see many on-track yellows until the later portions of it. Stages 1 and 2 went relatively clean. Stage 2 we ended a bit early due to a crash in the final few laps, but stage 1 went green basically until the end of lap number 50. And then in that final stage, lots of more carnage, especially the crashes later on, and we had that late race restart with Maggio just clinging to the bottom and holding on for dear life for what was his 4th career drop in the Hammah Cup Series victory. But for Warren Kyle Keith, had the big-time dagger at Talladega Super Speedway, although he jumped into that race with a large margin. He was down 50 points from the cut line heading into Dega because he was not a part of the Kansas race, so it put him in a pretty big hole, and then just survived to live through Echo Park Speedway last Sunday, but unfortunately he dropped more. Down 59 points from the cut line, didn't make any substantial gains among the rest of the championship 4, who in the likes of Peel, Cedric Hunter, and Zachary Hall pointing their way in. They had good races up until that point. They finished well, and they also had good stage finishes, so it didn't allow Keith to gain any upper hand, and he really just needed a race win apart from gaining as many points as possible. So Keith now in it for the gold and going for that final checkered flag this season in a campaign where this 78 car has shined in many ways. The Crimson Cup Series Bass Pro Shops number 78 will man the outside charge as we come down to the green flag start. On the bottom is Stephen Harlow, who, remember, fell back through the cracks in one of our last green flag starts entering turn 1. Not the best start for the 11 then. He'll try to get a better one now. To the restart zone. Warren Kyle Keith up in front. Green flag. And a great start from Keith. Harlow down the bottom shelf, looking to get away in the middle of turn 2. And he's still there in this run in the back straightaway. Harlow looking for the lead in turn 3. And there's Harlow ripping the wheel, sawing at it, looking for the lead, and he's got it. As Lawson Peel on the 4 fresh tires challenges to the inside. As Justin Erb trying to fight for 3rd. Cedric Hunter not too far behind. As Harlow leads, here comes Peel, championship leader. To the bottom goes Hunter, 3 wide. It's going to be big time help from Erb. But Cedric Hunter, silent in the opening few, has stepped up to the challenge. And he's riding the bottom seam, trying to get to the bottom. Can't quite get there. Door shut off of turn 4. All about trying to get clean air and diversify yourself in the middle of this group. And Cedric Hunter just doing that as he tries to patrol the edge of this top 5 and get around Peel for the championship lead. Again, those 2 in the front don't matter. If Warren, Kyle Keith, and Stephen Harlow remain up front, good on them. Now Hunter is loose, saving the car. He's got a handle on it off of turn 4. What a drive by Hunter, just trying to get through to the championship leader. And look at the VR goggles on behalf of Hunter. Now on the outside, yellow flag will fly once again, and more trouble down the back of the field. And it's going to be more problems that will settle us under the yellow flag with 9 laps to go in the first stage. It has been caution-filled here from Homestead. Trying to get a look at how all of this started, but not entirely sure where it transpired. And there didn't seem to be a spinning car down either of the straightaways. And just not entirely sure where that yellow came out from. However, we'll try to get official word from race control on how that all cycled through. But it appeared that there weren't really any drivers involved in a sizable accident, it appears. And yep, we'll just be under the yellow flag here from lap number 42 with Casey Knighton at the back. There's Kevin Roy. And among those that are just trying to either get their laps back or just be in the midst of the group, we know Alex Muscarella has fallen several laps down. He's going to be 2 laps down in 15th. And Brad Fulham, who we saw create one of the more recent yellow flags of the night down the back straightaway, he's going to be 19 laps down and counting as he remains on pit road, just repairing what is left of that Toyota Camry. But it is going to be good news for those at the front of this field looking to get their tires set down. Of course, Stephen Harlow, Warren, Kyle Keith, and the gang were just trying to wait until that yellow flag would fly at the end of stage number 1. But it looks like we're going to have a dash all the way to the stage finish. As far as we are concerned, we know that at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Echo Park Speedway last week, it was just a situation of an early stage yellow coming out. And we ran those final laps, and I really had no idea, so it wasn't a situation where I could tell whether we were going to have a restart inside then or not. But it appears we are going to have different stages tonight, as we are told lap 40 and lap 80 will be our markers for stages. So apologize there. We didn't really get the full info here from Homestead-Miami Speedway. We anticipated it would be the same margin of 50, 50, 100, but it will be 40, 80, and then we'll go the next 120, perhaps under green, under strategy, and we'll try to get it through. So for Lawson Peel, it is going to be career stage win number 2. Only the second stage victory for the Columbus, Mississippi native. And to think of how many races he's won this year, and to think how many stage wins he doesn't have in comparison, it just shows you the level of persistence and speed he has, especially at the end of these races. We talked to you earlier about the way he doesn't qualify in this series, which is very different from a lot of other campaigns he runs on iRacing. He will be like the rest of the pack and elect to qualify, but all throughout 2025, he has given himself the challenge of being that first several drivers in the group to be at the back, not taking a qualifying effort, and every single time he has moved up to the top 10 or the top 5. Only several times in which Peel has struggled more than usual, but throughout most of the campaign and to what's made him so successful as a driver, he always gets up to the front by stages 1 or 2 at the end of it, and that's when he's really able to move forward. And he's leading more laps tonight at Homestead-Miami Speedway. In his Speedway resume, that includes 1.5 mile tracks. This does include Echo Park Speedway, since technically it is a 1.5 mile configuration. Last week, it also includes ovals like Darlington, Indianapolis, Nashville, and those that aren't categorically intermediate 1.5 mile tracks, but they are still over short track distance, and for the most part, they are not pure super speedways. Lawson has led 314 laps en route to tonight's event from Homestead-Miami. So he's been dominant, he's been quick, and now he's going to have the race lead on the outside of the front row with Cedric Hunter down the bottom. An attempt to take the championship lead away under that last restart. We'll see if he has a bit more fire behind the heart with Zachary Hall as teammate on the inside. And your front-running championship 4 now all in rows number 1 and 2. Green flag flies from Homestead. Lap number 45 off the edge of stage 1. And what a start by Brandon Banks. The 5 car pivots from the high side, looking to get the edge on the Toyota down low of Hunter. No can do. Harlow splits him through the middle for 3rd place down the back straightaway. And Banks again, on behalf of starting in the back, will have to fight in the middle of this pack as Hunter moves forward. Zachary Hall points down low. Craig Parks and Justin Erb will scrap at it back for P7. And Steven Maggio again went for that slide in the middle of 1 and 2. Created one of the latest yellows of the race. Now he's back in it with 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. He'll try and pivot from the high side. Banks will play the defense. He's there. He'll settle in a 4th. Now 3rd in the championship group. Banks at this style of speedway, 12 top 10 finishes, including those 2 illustrious wins. The first one that got him into the playoffs at Chicagoland under an overtime restart. And then, of course, at Kansas in that round of 8, leading the most laps in his Droppin the Hammah Cup Series career. Prior to that, he hadn't led more than any triple-digit margin in this series. And then just full-on dominated Kansas. Homestead not treating him as dominantly as Kansas did earlier on this season, but Banks is still holding on at top 5. The field has singled out behind the race leader in Lawson Peel, although he hasn't scurried away from Cedric Hunter quite yet in the 45. Still about a car length between the two, as in the background, Zachary Hall fights to the inside of Steven Maggio. That'll be for 5th place. Championship 4 running 1st, 2nd, 4th, and now 6th place with Zachary Hall at the back end of it. Remember, we saw a bulk of the playoff drivers not take qualifying times, but that really hasn't mattered, whether it be through courteous respect from the non-playoff drivers or just pure speed and strategy. These green banner cars and those drivers that on the horizontal ticker are highlighted in neon green with a gray background, those are those fighting for the title this season. As here comes Cedric Hunter. Gray move off of turn 2. He'll point down low. The Toyota looking for the lead and the championship front. And for the first time, the Canadian Cedric Hunter finds his way to the edge of the front of the field. Cedric Hunter leads his first set of laps from Homestead. And now it's going to be about how you respond if you're Lawson Peel back in 2nd. As Stephen Harlow has seemingly gained speed. That number 11 Droppin the Hammah team car going to be in P3 with Brandon Banks not too far behind. And the rest of the top group have all been in a considerable margin. Your top 6 are all within at least a 2nd. Now 0.8 of a second. Peel wiggles loose in the middle of 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. And it's Stephen Harlow getting the best. Lawson Peel with 1 mistake, and it's going to cost him championship spots. And as a result of that car stepping out from Harlow, peeking the nose to the rear bumper and the rear spoiler, we've seen that happen so often here, especially in these 1.5 mile tracks with the next-gen car, that aero griefing effect that drivers dub it as, where you get to the inside of a car behind, and even if you're not properly down the bottom, you can be about a car length or 2 behind, and if you enter in the corner with enough of that momentum, you can take the air off of the rear spoiler of the car in front, and then that car in front will start to step out, and it's all on them to try and save their cars. We've seen plenty of instances where it has caught drivers by surprise many times, and it has forced them to spin or create huge accidents in the middle of packs. For Lawson Peel, just saving that race car when it mattered. Kept it off of the wall, kept it off of other drivers. He'll lose the track position for now, as we'll come under the final 28 here in the 2nd stage from Homestead-Miami. And that kind of caught off Lawson Peel last week at Echo Park Speedway, although it was in a very different format. Peel had been leading the outside charge, looking for that surge of momentum to get to the front of the field, and then it just took one stretch into turn 3. Car stepped out, rear tire slipped away, and Peel just found himself overcorrecting into the wall. And it was a thankful situation to which he had so little space between himself and the wall, to which when he overcorrected and hit the barrier, it didn't give him any significant damage, and he kept on rolling until he picked up the front end nose damage from the latest crash that brought out that late race restart in which Maggio got away. And with Cedric Hunter, he was right in that place to win the race. Didn't stay in a position to surge on Steven Maggio like he did in stage 1 with his teammate Zachary Hall. Instead, he waited back, finished second, and just understood that that finishing position would give himself a pointed edge into this championship for tonight. And for Hunter then, last Sunday, he told us that it didn't really matter. He didn't care about winning at Echo Park Speedway. Sure, wins give you momentum and all that, but his biggest mindset, his point of emphasis was getting into this championship finale at Homestead and understanding he had finished well in the stages, and if he got a good finish then and didn't get into any of the catastrophic crashes late, he would be able to surge forward and set his mind towards this specific race from South Florida, and he has used that to his advantage. The confidence is there, the speed is there, and only non-playoff drivers that sit in the rearview mirror. It's Stephen Harlow and Steven Maggio, car number 11 and car number 97, going to be back in second and third. And because of that one mistake, Zachary Hall, of course, moved forward. He's in P6, or he is P6 as Lawson Peel made his way by. And Brandon Banks is now going to be proverbially second in the championship fight as he rolls from 4th place. So not entirely out of the picture are any of the championship 4. They are still all within this top 10. And a current update on the field, 14 machines on the lead lap still. Alex Muscarella, should we get the next yellow flag, perhaps at the next stage break from lap number 80, he will get the lucky dog and he will join the lead lap pack on the racetrack. Good battle building up for 7th place. This is 2-time Talladega winner Craig Parks in his number 17 car, trying to roll forward on the St. Augustine, Florida native of Warren Kyle Keith. And it's been a solid final stint for Parks, even after and in between those Talladega victories where he was just in disbelief after winning the first time and almost had the same sentiment when he got to victory lane the second time around just several weeks ago. And through these last 3, 2 top 10s, of course, one of them the win at Talladega, 7th place in the middle of July in Kansas, and then 16th place arriving at Echo Park Speedway last Sunday. And prepping up for another good finish tonight. Perhaps could close off the season with 3 of the last 4 races being top 10 efforts and a race win. So the Tide Chevrolet of Craig Parks give him all the credit. Riding the wall on the outside. Didn't really get that momentum there in the middle of 1 and 2. And there's Warren Kyle Keith for the taking in the middle of the speedway. And now a battle for the front spot. Stephen Harlow made his way forward. Steven Maggio found his way down to the outside. And Cedric Hunter seems to be in trouble as the invitation has allowed Lawson Peel and Drinkin' Bros Racing teammate Brandon Banks to get in the mix. Here coming down to the final 22. And a possible charge for Peel. Now he'll dive low underneath Hunter in the look for the championship lead. He'll hug the bottom down the exit of turn 4, and he will have it. As Cedric Hunter points backwards, and Brandon Banks will try and point to the inside of the racetrack now. 3 wide in the bid for the championship front holding spot. Brandon Banks down low, shut at the door in 1 and 2. Cedric Hunter still down low. And now the fight for the runner-up spot in the championship. As Hunter points to the inside, Lawson Peel washes up wide in turn 4. And Brandon Banks will assist his teammate. Again, that kind of balance between helping your teammate out and then just running all for yourself. That was that kind of mindset that all 4 of these drivers play. It's one of those unique championship 4 scenarios in which there are teammates on either side. 50% category 5, 50% DBR. And with a team like Drinkin' Bros Racing and how dominant they've been, getting several of their machines to victory lane this season, whether it be from Peel, the 9-time winner, from Banks winning twice, from Craig Parks winning twice, Eric Schaefer capturing wins as he picked up one from Phoenix earlier on this season. It has been mostly defined by Drinkin' Bros Racing talent getting into Droppin' the Hammah victory lane. And their stronghold continues as Steven Maggio up in front on the windshield of Lawson Peel is prepping up a potential slice down the inside or the outside of the race leader. And And Maggio just getting a piece of the outside wall. There is a nasty bump in the middle of 3 and 4. That is one of those defining features of Homestead-Miami. And although there is the big tunnel, it's down the front straightaway, entering turn 1. It's not in a place where you would hit it so hard and it would unsettle the race car, but there is that sizable bump right in the middle of 3 and 4. And when you're up at the top, you feel it more than you would if you're down the bottom lane. Maggio just gaining that momentum, trying to use the aero wall proximity to his benefit. The rookie driver still no play forward as he'll fall back just about a car length or two from the race leader in Stephen Harlow, who has now seemingly took control and kept the rhythm of this race going with the top 5 in this field, separated by just 9/10 of a second, and then a pretty decent gap back to the Category 5 Esports Toyota of Zachary Hall, and then nearly a 4-second gap back to rookie Jeff Gilmore, who's running inside the top 7. So a lot of separation, and here can tell you the full story of how much distance is separating Hall, and then the trailing Gilmore back at the edge of the top 10. Onboard look from Harlow, downshift to 4th, and there's all that defense he's got to play. And what a run by Steven Maggio. Points down to the bottom in turn 1. And another lead change here from Homestead. Steven Maggio, aggressive at the front, new race leader. And now there's going to be more fire. Here comes Lawson Peel, championship leader. Doesn't need any more in the midst of this traffic, but he's going to look for it anyway. And we've seen the best so far tonight use the outside to their advantage only when they need it and only when they can use a good run. And for Lawson, he's going to try and employ it once again in 1 and 2. Had to look for clean air. Oh, and Lucy will be in the middle of 1. Here comes Harlow down the bottom. Tough racing here from Homestead. And again down the bottom shelf. Lawson Peel not quite giving it up, and doesn't matter who's in front. He's going to try and get around anyway. As Maggio fights hard, defense through the top shelf. And Peel will have to hit the reset button. Try again. As his teammate Brandon Banks looms from 4th. And again, every position matters at these mile-and-a-half tracks where the tire wear is so significant. And especially through the final 13 here in stage 2 is going to be about holding on to your shoes as Peel dots the bottom again, trying to dime it into the middle of 3 and 4. Maggio's going to play hard defense up at the top. He's going to stay on the door of the 9 car. Great racing for the lead back to turn 1. And that time, Peel ahead. And sideways is Peel in the middle of 1. Trying to save it, he does. But he's going to give up the championship lead as a result. Brandon Banks on the high side. Pushes through, and once again, another mistake. Catches the Columbus, Mississippi native. It was one earlier in the event off of turn 4. And it's another one fighting for the lead in 1. And now Stephen Harlow finds the open door. He'll tick to the inside. What a race you're watching from Homestead at the front. And not going away is Maggio, who's told us that he's going to go for the win no matter what. He told us last week after winning at Echo Park that he didn't want to ruin the chance at winning the championship for any of the running 4. But in this situation, it's no holds barred. And caution flag will come out as we're coming down to 10 laps to go in the stage. Spinner, Kevin Roy down the back straightaway. And it's huge damage for the 77 car, the Celsius Toyota. Oh, and it is a ugly hit down the back straightaway off of turn 2. So running behind Jeff Gilmore, who was running in P8, I believe, at the time of this incident. And it looks like Roy just loses it, taps the outside wall hard, and it's going to be, oh, an ugly hit to the inside barrier. Hood comes flying off, and Roy comes to arrest at the inside of what's going to be turn 2. We saw this earlier happen with Brad Fulham. Same deal happened to Steven Maggio, but none as havoc-filled as this one. As the seams kick in, hard hit to the wall first. And this is the dealing blow. Nothing that Roy could do to prohibit any sort of extra contact, as the field will stay out on the racetrack, and we may just try and run the final 9 laps of stage number 2 under green. That is good news for Alex Muscarella. He will gain his lap back after being in that Lucky Dog candidacy spot for a little while now. And so he will reconnect with the main pack up front, and we'll try and restart with a quick dash to lap number 80 of this race. So with that, let's bring in the second member of our broadcast team. Joining us midway through, it is our good friend Francisco Bacalhau. Francisco, we have gone a little while in this race, plenty of cautions, but I'm pretty sure, as you've seen, the racing up front has been spectacular between championship competitors and non-playoff drivers as we get deeper into stage number 2 and try to decide perhaps this race under strategy. What kind of thoughts do you have about the competition level of this championship 4 and what we should expect to see as the sun continues to set here in Homestead?
Yeah, I'm very thrilled to have been able to make it here tonight to watch this championship event. And so far, what I've seen is that this thing is very competitive, and it can be won by any of the 4 drivers. They're all up at the front easily with an opportunity to come home with the big trophy. And this racetrack is always producing some of the best racing on the entirety of the schedule. Never seems to sell itself short. And we're going to have a couple laps here to go before this stage number 2 finishes, and then we'll be going a long way into stage number 3, which is the most important stage for performing and making sure everything is up to date. We've seen Lawson Peel and the 23 of Zachary Hall. They've made a couple of mistakes throughout the evening that have resulted in some track position loss, and it's better to do that now earlier in the race. You don't want to do that too late in the race because that could definitely hamper your opportunities.
And from what we've seen tonight, these little mistakes have been the defining moments from these green banner cars. I mean, it has spread across the entire championship 4, from Zachary Hall getting loose, Cedric Hunter getting loose, fighting for the championship lead, Lawson Peel, that most recent incident, just getting loose, fighting for the front spot with Steven Maggio. It's all taken small things, but it has mattered a lot in a very hefty championship 4 field that is going to line rows 2 and 3. Again, we mentioned earlier on in the show, in this championship 4 format, it always comes down to usually being the race winner and being the overall best car, not just the best out of the other championship drivers. So we get the restart here at lap 73 and a quick 7-lap dash to the end of stage 2. Harlow and Maggio to the green flag to turn 1.
A great launch by Harlow to get himself well out in front. And that kind of bogged down the back half of the field, as there you see Lawson Pugh immediately jump up in front of the 23 of Hall as they're immediately going to the high side, restarting on these old tires. Cedric Hunter with a great run to try and get himself up into second in front of Maggio. Further back, though, are the 2 teammates working together, trying to see if they can get past this 97 and make it a 4-way direct fight. And there's the 23 working that bottom lane. All 4 of these guys within half a second of each other, with Maggio in the middle of it all.
You know, we've seen throughout most of the season and a lot of the other tracks on the campaign, to which if you drive on the inside of row 2 on a restart, more often than not, you'll get the best jump of those drivers around you. But all the leaders have chosen the high side here at Homestead throughout this race, so it's resulted in that second car on the top groove getting the best run. It's Cedric Hunter on the restart. It's Cedric Hunter looking for the lead in turn 3.
And look at the run Peel had off of turn 2 to get himself to the inside of Maggio to turn 3. They remain side by side the first handful of rows. You have to go all the way back to Brandon Banks, which is now getting single filed out. But immediately, everybody with this cooler track conditions running the different lines, it is clearly providing some great racing, and you have to go to these other spots on the racetrack to get that clean air. Look at Maggio getting that run on the outside. He's not really going to have anywhere to go with it. He has to push the 11 because Peel's to his inside.
We saw Maggio earlier in this race be a controlling factor, and he told us that when the track cools down, this track is going to change a lot, and changed it has. Now all of the lanes usable. Maggio's going to shut the door on Peel from the outside run. It opens the shot for Brandon Banks to peek down low in the battle for what's going to be runner-up in the Championship 4, as Cedric Hunter has pulled away to the tune of 0.3 of a second up near the outside wall, as Peel staying up there. Warren Kyle Keith fighting Zachary Hall for what's going to be P6.
And I find that move by Peel to be very interesting, the way he didn't enter right onto the wall, but he got close enough to it and immediately found grip, and that allowed him to get well past the 97 off of turn 2 despite the odd entry, and now he's well up into third as Maggio and Banks battle. But Stephen Harlow and Cedric Hunter continue to try to battle for this top position. Stephen Harlow clearly being one of the faster non-championship contending race cars here tonight, apart from Stephen Maggio, as those two have been fighting with these championship contenders all night long.
Stephen Harlow looking for a bright spot in what has otherwise been a wild season. Of course, plenty of times where he was pointed basically below the cut line and then found a way to move his way through from consistency and great results and just surviving at the end of these races, in which a lot of them become treacherous, as Lawson Peel saves the car a third time off of turn 4. That might have been the scariest one yet.
That was a huge slide. He nearly overcorrected it, was thankful not to get into the inside wall, and Stephen Maggio in the process checked up for him pretty significantly as to not get into him and cause him to miss any kind of incidents. He loses a couple of spots there and critically loses time to Cedric Hunter. But here's going to be a replay on the inside. He's on the inside trying to put the power down, but it gets away from under him, and there's Maggio slowing down for him. Banks sees it, tries to go down low, and there's Warren Kyle Keith going past all of them, as that cost them all about 2 or 3 spots each.
You look at the gloves, and he was fighting that car to keep it straight for dear life. Any overcorrection there, and his race would have certainly been toast. So Lawson survives again on a loose condition from the race car. He is dropped in the middle of the Hornet's nest. That's where Justin Erb sits in 7th. Right behind is where Maggio is. They're going to be 3 wide. Entering turn 3, they're going to split and flush the 9 car through the middle groove, and they're probably going to get Zachary Hall. Look at the run by Justin Erb, getting 1 and 2 off of turn 4. Justin Erb with a great push, and the TOW Racing Chevrolet into 5th.
That outside lane, if you run it the right way, you can absolutely make a good amount of time doing so, especially in here in 1 and 2, and it can allow you to make some track position. But even as the tires wear, if they're already worn out, that's going to be arguably the faster line. So if you can consistently run up there and not get into the outside wall, you're going to be a tough cracker to get past.
And it's been tough to get around through the top 5, especially with a hard and determined Stephen Maggio, as he's going to run the top side, play defense with Zachary Hall, but they're going to run up single file in the attempt to catch up to the 2 non-playoff drivers that have gotten close. Yellow flag is going to come out again, and that will be the stage finish. Cedric Hunter at the front of the field will capture the stage victory, with Stephen Harlow, Brandon Banks, Warren Kyle Keith, and Justin Erb the remaining top 5, as Hunter has put himself in the right place at the right time and taking the lead with Stephen Harlow in tow. And the 45 car who won his only race this season at 1.5 miles at Charlotte to kick off the postseason, he will be at the front. And, you know, the points will matter, but in a sense for confidence. But Francisco, the points don't matter in this Championship 4 format. If anything, I think Stephen Harlow might be the biggest benefactor of them all. He's going to get 9 points for finishing 2nd.
That's going to help his bid into finishing 5th in the overall point standings, which his life will be made easier knowing that Steven Stempien and his brother Ross Harlow are in the event tonight. So I think this will all but certainly lock that 11th place into a top 5 points effort for the entire season. Pit road is going to be open, Kenneth, and this is the last for sure caution that we're going to get all night long. So you have to make sure that you enter your stall nice and smooth. Don't make any major mistakes. You don't want to lose track position for this final stage. Yes, it's going to be over 100 laps long, but you just can't really afford to make those kind of mistakes and give up that kind of track position.
And there was split strategy in the middle of this field, and it's helped Stephen Harlow move up to 2nd, not only on the rod pace, but he had 7 lap fresher tires than Cedric Hunter, Brandon Banks, and the lot that had pitted earlier in this event, and then the most recent yellow before this stage break. The rest of the field, and Harlow, Keith, and a bunch of others had come in because they were thinking that perhaps things were going to go a little bit differently. They went green, but then that quick yellow came out, so they decided why not use that fresh set of Goodyear Eagles to their advantage. Race off of pit road will happen here. Cedric Hunter came in first. It appears to be the first one to exit. Stephen Harlow is going to give him a fight for his money, though, and just about 4 wide as they were coming off of pit lane in the fight for what was going to be 4th place. Brandon Banks, Justin Erb, Warren Kyle Keith, and Zachary Hall will settle back to 7th place. And in all of that, Lawson Peel has dropped the most of the group. He's fallen back to 9th and final of the Championship 4.
And Richard Swavely has stayed out under this caution. He pitted under the last yellow, has 12 laps on his set of tires, his run. So interesting to see how this works out for the 32 when we get back racing.
Remember, he picked up heavy front-end damage from a spin off of turn 4 And he was the driver to bring out the first yellow, as a matter of fact, on the first 2 laps of the race. And he spent all of that time repairing his car. He pitted just about 13 laps ago, which we come at the stripe. And so he'll use some of that fresh tire-ish power to try and stay up front. However, Cedric Hunter will occupy the outside of row 1, and it'll be the first time in a while, or the first time at all, to which we've seen the leader not choose the top groove for the green flag start. So if you're wondering why we got the stage numbers completely wrong on the KBueno Racing Network, we are not dumb. It was just a matter of we didn't know when the stages were. And in the Discord channel for the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series, we are usually updated every week, several days before race day, by Steven Stamping, who's one of the league owners. He is not, in fact, in this race tonight to finalize Season 1 of this Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series. So we didn't really get word on what the stage numbers and figures were going to be like. So we've seen the trend at 1.5 mile racetracks, and immediately it was turning to 50, 50, 100, which has been the great formula, the bread and butter throughout these intermediate tracks this season. But they elected to change it. They wanted a longer stage 3 to enable strategy to open up more, especially in the context for a championship race. Even though they didn't extend the actual race distance, we're staying at lap 200 and what is 300 miles and 480 kilometers. So we just want to reiterate that fact. We apologize for any confusion. We also apologize for missing the start of this race on lap 1. We know that's a heavy anticipated moment. However, we will get a crucial green flag off the exit of stage number 2. Final stage, green from Homestead. Swavely and Hunter chase for turn 1. They're going to be side by side down to the corner.
A great launch on those slightly used tires for the 32. He'll get out and clear for the top spot as Hunter and Harlow go side by side for second, with Hunter on that outside getting the run off of turn number 2. We'll see if the 32 can hang on to the race lead by the time they get back to the start-finish line to actually lead laps on this strategy. Looking further back through this field, Steven Madge is already trying to make some moves on the 78. Lawson Peel kind of hanging back for now in the 9th spot, so they're not being too aggressive to get past through this field, as looks like Stephen Harlow had a moment off of turn 4, because now Brandon Banks, with the help of the outside lane, has moved up into 3rd, and he's falling back to the clutches of this big battle going on just inside the top 5.
It's where Maggio and Keith have been battling over the last lap and a half. It's the reignition of a battle they had earlier on tonight inside the same positions, 5th, 6th, 7th place. That same margin was exactly what separated Maggio and Keith. Now the exit of turn 4 is where Maggio is going to point forward to get the better rotation through the corner. And out of the bottom of former race leader Stephen Harlow. We've seen already several drivers, I can count them on my fingers, that we have seen lead this race tonight from Homestead. It has been full diversification, and Keith will trudge back in the middle of turn 2. Zachary Hall down the bottom as Brandon Banks will surge under Cedric Hunter. First time we call the 5 car, looking for the championship lead. Wiggle in turn 3.
You just have to remember, it was Kansas Speedway after this update, a crucial 1.5 mile racetrack that is very similar to Homestead in its general characteristics of how you run the racetrack. And it was Brandon Banks that was so successful in that race. So when you looked at him and that performance, you could say this is the kind of run he could have at the championship finale and get himself into position. And that's what he's doing so right now. Brandon Banks just gets out in front of Cedric Hunter, who's not done fighting yet.
5 car stays down the bottom. And with all of this, Richard Swavely smiling, looking at his rearview mirror. Although he's got 12-lap older tires, he's made good use of them. Brandon Banks swivels in front, and for the first time tonight, Brandon Banks is the championship leader from Homestead.
And I will think the biggest thing about this is that this looks like it's an alternative strategy that can work out later in this race if drivers decide that old tires or 2 tires are a viable option in order to be able to get the track position. If they're able to hold on for another couple of laps, then this could be a move that any of the championship drivers could try to use in case of a late yellow.
It's an onboard look from the PaulsCars.com Chevrolet as most of the field runs single file behind. And again, you mentioned that Kansas race, the big standout moment for this 5 car on the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina native, where he led a ton of laps at America's Heartland, and no one could stop him. It was between him or Zachary Hall on strategy that made things work, and now he's going to search for the lead of this race entirely, and he's got it. Off the back straightaway, Brandon Banks clears ahead on the fresh rubber, and for the first time, he's going to be in clean air off of turn 4. Cedric Hunter pivots to the bottom. He'll look for second.
Crucially, that was about 3 or 4 laps that the 32 was able to stay out in front with 12-lap old tires, and I think most of these guys are taking notes of that, because if we do get into a restart inside of 5 laps to go or a green-white checker, they could look at, like I said, no tires, just staying out, or possibly taking right-side tires in an effort to get track position. So they're all looking at this strategy by Richard Swavely and just keeping it in the back of their minds in case 100 laps later this could present itself an opportunity. Crucially, Lawson Peel has really not made any ground on this restart. He is remaining in the 9th spot. He has just gotten past Warren Kyle Keith, who appears to have had an issue off of turn 4. But Lawson has not really been on the attack on this restart. He's kind of stayed behind Justin Erb, and it's just kind of running a smooth pace. Not sure if this is intentional by the 9 or what exactly could be going on here.
Gotta think that with how wild of an opening stint it was for him, being sideways multiple times on end, and with that last swivel that nearly had him overcorrecting into the wall, I think perhaps a safe play here is to run calm and collected and not try to burn up the tires. We saw more of that aggression in the first 2 stages of this race, but that has resulted in more lost time for Peel because he had pushed so hard. So maybe on this strategy here, knowing it's the longest stage of the race upcoming, and now that we're in the middle of it, coming down to the final half of this race from Homestead, Peel understands maybe use the high side when you need it, but don't burn off the tires too much, because all those loose moments is what cost him track position, whether it be for the full-on race lead or for the championship top spot. So he gets around Justin Erb, he'll slide into 7th, and next drivers on the chopping block. That battle between Richard Swavely and Stephen Harlow now is where the hemorrhaging begins for the Heavy Metal Jesus Motorsports Toyota Camry, as Harlow pivots down to the bottom of the inside in turn 1. And it's all single file from here on out. Zachary Hall has made his way through to 4th. Stephen Maggio breaks in the middle of what is Cedric Hunter and Hall, the 2 Cat 5 Esports teammates. And then Brandon Banks, who has maintained his 0.3 of a second lead 6 laps from halfway.
And Maggio slowly has Zachary Hall cruising up to his rear bumper to try and make this a championship 4 driver 1, 2, 3 in the process, as Hall is peeking around to his outside. There's Stephen Harlow getting past Richard Swavely. But here's the battle for 3rd right now. Third, as Zachary Hall gets to the outside of the 97 off of turn 2 by staying on the right side of the car. We'll see if he goes all the way to the outside or if he just tries to run the middle. Indeed, he'll go to the middle of the racetrack, try to cut the 97's exit off, and it could work out for him. Looks like he's getting a nice run here off of turn 4, and indeed so. So now we have 3 title contenders in the top 3 spots.
Good stuff between those drivers as Hall makes that move, and back to that idea that the 97 car didn't want to come in, trying to hold any championship drivers back, so a smart decision to let them play for all at the front 3. So it's Banks, Hunter, and Hall, your former championship drivers, in the podium. Maggio, of course, falling back to 4th. Stephen Harlow, who led a bunch of laps earlier on tonight and has really stepped forward in times that have mattered. He's moved into 5th. The Fairhaven, Vermont native, who was eliminated last week at Echo Park Speedway, is looking to close off the championship race with a bang and with a first-ever race victory, with Richard Swavely back in 6th. And still no progression yet from Lawson Peel, although we should expect to see that in just a couple of moments. But it'll be a matter of time until we see that 9 car try to move forward. He'll run the boards, the only one doing so inside the front group. So it's a matter of everyone saving tires as we are 3 laps from what will be halfway home here in South Florida in our championship finale for the inaugural season of the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series. If you're joining us now, thank you so much for joining us on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno and Francisco Bacallao with you. We have seen plenty of lead changes, great races at the front of this field, and even though we are in now the longest and most intense stage of the race, we've got the calmest racing in the field, all single file up until right about where Alex Muscarella and Richard Swavely is, and that will be for position in 7th.
And I'll tell you what, Kenneth, the weather in Sim has looked a lot better than it has here in the past week.
Yeah, it's been ugly here in South Florida. Thankful that at iRacing we can kind of control the weather and get it under sorts to have a sunset, beautiful evening in South Florida. But if you've been here or if you've heard anything about the weather in South Florida over the past week, it has been soggy, it's been wet, it has been thunderstormy, everything under the sun as hurricane season is fast approaching, and we've already got a system in the middle of the Atlantic. So maybe some bad news for those on the East Coast.
And I do have plans for Daytona, so hopefully those don't interfere, but the dates are aligning.
Yeah, it's going to be close. End of August when the NASCAR Cup Series goes racing at the World Center of Racing for some possible eliminators in the running for the playoffs. Going to be a big-time decision for the field. as we'll get closer to that. Speaking of the World Center of Racing, lots to be excited for at the track in Sim, because tomorrow night we will kick off the inaugural KBRN Truck Series season. My good friend Francisco will be broadcasting the action. I will actually be on track, so I'm going to try my best not to embarrass the KBRN name with a steering wheel in my hand. But Daytona comes up tomorrow night. You won't want to miss it at about 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That will be, of course, right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. We are very much excited to bring that series to you. A lot of drivers in this series and beyond, to which we've covered here on this network, will be a part of that series, so we can't wait to have you join us then. And tomorrow night at Daytona, as Zachary Hall gets around his teammate Cedric Hunter, that first seam line, not to the white line, is working for the 23 car, gets his way to P2 in the championship fight, and P2 on the racetrack.
Traditionally, that was the line. When I first got into the sim, that was the line that you normally would use at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. You wouldn't go all the way 4 tires below the seam. You would probably, right there, use those left sides right on the seam. I know you know this. I remember it very well with the previous scan, which had the grass down the back straightaway and all that, that you would put the left sides on that seam, maybe just a little bit below it. You didn't want to go lower, you didn't want to go higher. That's exactly where you had to be, and so it looks like there's still some semblance that if you run it good enough, it can definitely work out for you, especially on these long runs, and the 23 is putting that to good use.
On board with Cedric Hunter as he rolls from third, now looking back at Steven Maggio, hoping that he can keep that buffer all the way back to what's Lawson Peel, who's rolled into P6 after getting around Justin Erb, getting around Richard Swavely, and the list continues from there. But you're right, it is that good lane in that first seam, to which recently in the next-gen car we haven't seen that be a prominent factor. It hasn't been the fastest as Hall wiggles loose, and he's still fighting the car in the middle of 1 and 2. Here comes Hunter fighting back to the low side, and we'll bring back this battle for second, as Banks will hold on to the race lead for now. But it's a very solid way of keeping the right front contained, making sure that it doesn't unravel out of control and wear too much, because if you keep your left side tires on that seam, it offers a bit more rotation. Car can free up, especially if you're using different lanes to be in clean air and the driver in front is not using that same lane. And so Hall has made that very sure over the last several laps, and it's helped him creep up and be one of the faster cars in this top 5. Quick hiccup by Hunter allows Maggio to move on through. That'll be the fight for third. Now separates second and third in the championship 4.
And my theory here, Kenneth, is that since this update, tires percentage-wise wear more than they did previously. So if you use that outside lane and it still wears the tires out more, it probably won't be as big as a negative factor as it might have been previously, because it's all going to go down close to 0 by the time these guys end up making a green flag pit stop anyways. So if you can actually run faster lap times going up there, it might actually be worth it this time when you get to those later stages in the run.
Here's Stephen Harlow down the inside of Cedric Hunter, negated move, and good theory there, Francisco. I mean, it's fun to watch here at Homestead. It's one of those tracks that I mentioned at the top of the show while talking to the championship for tonight, before the green flag waved, that it's one of those tracks to where you don't see it often on schedules. You look at a lot of leagues on iRacing, and more than often, you'll see several mile-and-a-half tracks. Charlotte can be one of them. You can chalk it up to a couple other racetracks on the schedule that you'll see more than once. Short tracks as well. Daytona, Talladega, those tracks, they could be put in places where you will see them twice in a season, so you can have notes from a prior race there and use it to that second race. Maybe a bit different if you had one pre-next gen update and after next gen update, but the case is similar. It's the same track. You can use that rhythm and momentum to kind of carry your way through. Homestead is one of those venues where you usually see it once and you never see it again. It's usually the championship finale or it's mid-season. It could be an all-star race, but from there you don't see it as a part of the schedule more than one time. So it's one of those unique venues to which you're only going to see it once. You're never going to see it on a racetrack capacity after or before. And so for many of these guys, they've had to take charge of Homestead either through racing other leagues that take their charge here at Homestead, or just put in practice laps solo as much as they can. Big move for 5th place. Cedric Hunter in front. That's Lawson Peel behind him. Stephen Harlow gives way for P6.
And that's actually why I applaud Tyler Murray's decision. Though Homestead is no longer the championship finale and 4 wide for season 8, it hosts a critical playoff race in the second to last round of the postseason, but it's also going to be the all-star race for this upcoming season. So it gains a date despite not being the championship race anymore. So it's interesting to see it going to be handled in that capacity of an all-star event, but also seeing it host still a very important playoff race, much like it did in 2022 through 2024.
It'll be exciting to see Homestead on the 4-wide racing schedule, to which that season starts 10 days from now. August 20th is when we're going to have our duels at Daytona, and already we are kicking off that 4-wide Season 8 with the NASCAR Next Gen cars. Here's a look at Stephen Harlow with 25 laps led tonight. He gives way for Lawsonby to step into 5th, in which the 9 car will now take another bite, this time on Cedric Hunter in the fight for P4. And so the 9 car already using the tire saving abilities to his advantage past halfway tonight. But Stephen Harlow coming into tonight with 6 of the last 7 race efforts being top 10 runs, and finished 3rd in that Echo Park Speedway event last Sunday, in which it resulted in a 2-lap to go restart, and Maggio was able to pull away. And that Project Hopner Chevrolet at the time had been one of the fastest machines, using the high side and being all over, and talked to us about how he was excited, even though he was eliminated from championship contention, was still proud of the season that he put together. And if you think about it, and you consider Sunoco Cup Series history, Harlow had only been a part of that final season of Sunoco Cup action, in which he came close to winning races more than once, wasn't able to capture a checkered flag, but jumps into this Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season with that momentum in hand, and it certainly has worked out as the 4-car train builds behind 3rd place Brandon Banks. But meanwhile, Zachary Hall has been able to step forward. He's taking control of the lead with Steven Maggio behind.
And Banks was leading the race, but he had a big slide off of turn 4 that cost him the top 2 positions, and that's what brought him back to this group, which consists of his teammate and Cedric Hunter. So now Banks has to try and hang on from this 3rd place spot, as the top 2 have kind of pulled away to almost a second over Banks and all of them, and they're about 30 laps into this stint. Now, normally, a fuel run here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway is about 65 laps, so it should get you to the next window. It's right about there, about 60 laps each, that you can split up this final stage. I don't know if you want to necessarily do the one stop. I'm not sure that we'll see everybody do the one stop. We might see drivers value the tires more and try to go for an extra pit stop. I'm not too sure. We don't know what's going to happen exactly, but I'm just saying that we do have that one pit stop window where it's right in the very middle, almost at the very end of each fuel run. No problem. You're not going to have to save fuel to make it work on each end of the run. It's just towards the very end of each fuel stint, and the tires are going to be very worn by then.
Well, the one thing that Zachary Hall and Cedric Hunter don't want to do as teammates is come in too early. Stephen Harlow was also a part of a group that had come in so early on at Echo Park Speedway in the middle of the green flag stretch, and that's when Harlow told us when that strategy spill happened and he fell a lap down and he was way off of the marker compared to those who had gone so much longer. He told us that he looked like it was doomed for him at Echo Park, that he wasn't going to gain that track position, that he wasn't going to be in a chance to win. Lo and behold, the yellows fall in his favor and he's able to gain his lap back, and then of course finished in 3rd. But it was just a matter of making that decision a bit too early. And then with Cedric Hunter and Zachary Hall, that little bit simple and powerful mistake of pitting too late after the first stage was over, in which they fell a lap down, they fell into trouble, and things really didn't go well for them at the end. So you got to think about when is the right time to pit, specifically if we stay green. That's something that specifically Hall is going to have in mind, considering he is the man in control of the championship destiny. But now Steven Maggio is starting to mount up a charge. He was faster by a full 10th the last time they crossed the start-finish line, and the New York native is there off of turn 2.
I'll say the biggest note of emphasis in the differences in the pit road between last week and this week is you don't have to enter on the back straightaway as Maggio gets to the inside of Hall. You don't have to enter on the back straightaway. You can enter right here off of turn 4, and with these slower lap times that are being ran here at Homestead with these worn tires, by the time you pit and come out, you'll probably be within a handful of seconds of the race leader, definitely visual with the leader, as Alex Mascarella makes a pit stop here. I don't think that's a scheduled pit stop, but if you pit right now, if you're Steven Maggio, you'd probably come out probably 4 or 5 seconds behind the 23 physically on the racetrack and easily catch him and unlap yourself within about 3 or 4 laps of having made that pit stop. So I don't think that's as much of a loss here as it is at other racetracks, as the caution flag is out. So forget all this strategy talk that we were going on about, as it looks like it's once again Richard Swavely in trouble on the back straightaway. This will be a yellow with about 84 laps remaining in this race, so this is not a window to get to the end of the race, which could be crucial if we go green from here.
Swavely still loose in 3. And we had that short shot of Alex Muscarella. He nearly brought out the yellow before Swavely did. He had spun off of turn 2 and just about hit the inside wall hard. He towed it to pit road, but here is the official cause of the caution waving. It'll help Swavely come back down pit road on the oldest set of Goodyear Eagles, but it's going to be lost track position, and it's a great save off the inside wall. Just was able to keep it at a perpendicular angle, keep it away from that barrier that has stricken many so far tonight. Of course, Kevin Roy, Brad Fulham among those getting heavy front end, left side damage as a result of that inside wall. And our yellow comes out, like you said, Francisco, right at the edge of the window. So this will not confirm the field in to the checkered flag, at least for right now. But everyone's going to come through. Zachary Hall in control. He maintains the lead. Maggio, Banks, Hunter, Harlow, and what is going to be Lawson Peel inside the top 6 as they all come in this time.
Yeah, the maximum you can go on fuel is 65 laps or so. That's probably the upper edge of where you can go on a full tank of fuel. And right now we're almost 20 laps over that very mark. So definitely going to be short for most of the field. There's a quick pit stop by Cedric Hunter. Gets out in front of Banks. There's Zachary Hall. And Stephen Maggio wins the race off pit road.
And it comes off of a 4-tire call. So it's not the usual 2-tire spread that we see out of Maggio, but it is quick enough to get in the top spot here at Homestead. What a pit road sequence from the 97 car. We'll get him up front. And Zachary Hall will have to deal with P2. Brandon Banks, Cedric Hunter, and Lawson Peel going to be 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th as they come off the pit lane. So again, this will not put them in a confirmed position to make it to the checkered. So we will have at least one more stop. But knowing how long 100% fuel can take you here, especially at a track like this, it's going to get close, Francisco. It's going to be a point where, you know, you can still go a little while longer, but you may have to pit earlier than you anticipate just because of the whole blend, particularly if we stay green. That is going to be the biggest if, because if we get that yellow flag, then this is really going to be not a conversation at all. But it's going to point them in a very difficult spot in which they will have leftover fuel, and it's more about who can have the faster stop than the other, because this Homestead-Miami Speedway isn't in Indianapolis. It is not a Pocono. It is not a large track to which you will not fall a lap down under strategy. So it's going to be fun.
Correct, but like I mentioned under green, it's not like you're going to be so far back behind the leader to unlap yourself. With luck, especially on a restart like this where we'll be a little bit closer than we were on that last run, you're going to be just a handful of seconds behind the leader with the fresher tires, so give it 5 or so laps and you can unlap yourself. But most importantly, if we go green from here, we're going to have about 80 laps remaining, so you can definitely see most of the field pit 40 laps into this run if we don't have a yellow up to that point and split this strategy right down the middle. So this will not be a super stringent run on the tires. You won't have to go extremely long, but we could see variants of it. We could see drivers maybe come in as soon as the window opens in about 20 or so laps. So we also could see some others possibly try to extend it all the way to the end, hoping they could catch a caution, gain the track position so that everyone has to come back down pit road. The point is, there's still plenty of things that could happen in the final 81 laps as we're getting ready to take the green flag. Stephen Maggio will lead, restarting from the outside lane. He gets a great launch, and the top 7 do, as a matter of fact, and he'll get clear for turn 1. So does Cedric Hunter. Zachary Hall will try to hold off Lawson Peel back to turn 1.
And a fantastic jump from the race leader. Those on the bottom get the better edge off of turn 2. We're going to be nearly 3 abreast. Peel clears for 4th. As they come down the back straightaway, he'll get Brandon Banks. Now slicing into the Category 5 Esports Tandem. Can't get it though. Left side tires too far low. Enters the apron. But Peel will point underneath at least enough. Off turn 4. Here comes Peel for 2nd in the championship.
Unable to really get to the quarter panel of the 23 on that inside, but he'll switch it to the outside. He's been making this outside work here in 1 and 2. The 23 drifts off the seam. He is in no man's land right there with the lack of grip, and there you see the 9 car easily powered by the 23, and he's going to have a run on Cedric Hunter possibly for turn 3. If there's anything you don't want to do at Homestead, Kenneth, is be between the 2 seams in the middle of the racetrack. That is the part of the racetrack here with the least amount of grip. And there's Lawson Peel now peeking to the inside.
And it's been hard for a lot of the drivers in this field because you can't really avoid crossing the seams when you're on the exit of these corners. They are much longer, and you have to turn still more in comparison to a lot of the other mile-and-a-halfs we encounter this season or encounter on the NASCAR oval schedule. So when you have as long of corners as you do on the exits here at Homestead, you got to plant in the throttle, make sure the car is stayed in straight, because you cross those seams on the throttle and on the gas, the rear tires will light up and then the car will spill. It's happened already off of turn 2 many times to bring out several caution flags. It's caught these drivers in the playoffs out as much, and it's second all the way back to 5th. All of them running for the title. Cedric Hunter in the front. He's not worried about Steven Maggio, as there may have been contact in turn 1. Banks nearly giving the chrome horn to Zachary Hall, and he saved it.
Incredible save there by Brandon Banks as he'll tuck in behind Zachary Hall down in the 5th spot. He'll actually go back on the attack now to the inside, as the championship contenders are all 2nd through 5th. So they have a clear glimpse of one another as Steven Maggio continues to lead this race. And you can't help but feel that this is just going to end up going all the way down to the final couple of corners in this championship fight, because there's been no clear fastest car of any of these 4. They've all made mistakes. They all have different moments where they've been quicker, but nothing that they've shown as a pattern. So it's very compelling, as you see striking the outside walls. The 78 of Warren Kyle Keith begins to drop back, so possibly some damage there to the 78 as Craig Parks now goes by on the outside of James Kunkel. And you see turn 2 can definitely be chaos corner here at Homestead.
And also with the championship for Francisco, they have all led laps tonight. It hasn't been a case of one driver just beating the others purely based off raw pace. They've all been able to make mistakes. They've all been able to lead up front and be in clean air. And they've all had the chance to be in very different scenarios. Now Lawson Peel will have to fend off the Category 5 Esports number 23. And it's going to be an easy pass. Textbook for Zachary Hall to get by. To runner-up in the championship, it is teammates versus teammates. Category 5 Esports up at the front of this championship group. The other 50% for DBR hanging in 4th and 5th. All in the balance in the final 75.
And that was a good move for the 23. Just hung in there right on Lawson Peel's door and didn't allow the 9 to get the power down. And that gave him the momentum down the straightaway, and it allowed him to get back into 3rd. Peel's not going to quit yet. As you see, 3 wide further back. James Kunkel in the middle of it all as they're battling tightly for what is the 6th position on the racetrack, with Stephen Harlow a little bit further up ahead. Some great battles all the way up and down the racetrack, all the way up and down the running order. Kenneth, Homestead-Miami Speedway always delivers.
Always a track where the lines will be of use anywhere, and the racing will be so much fun. On board with Craig Parks as he fights with 7th place Warren Kyle Keith. Look how much that 78 car is using the top groove to the advantage just right off the corner. And look how far off the gas Craig Parks had to get just to avoid spinning the rear tires anymore and getting him around off the exit of the treacherous turn 2 tonight. But Parks, the 2-time Talladega Super Speedway winner this season, has had a great campaign, made it as far as the round of 12, and got eliminated after several shaky races. But give credit to the 17 car and all that he's been able to accomplish in just the first season of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series. And it won't be the final time that we'll see Droppin the Hammah action until, DTH Cup Series action kicks off for Season 2. We will have a Gen 4 series that'll start in September. So keep your eyes peeled on the KBueno Racing Network. We'll have some Gen 4 Cup car racing for you with perhaps the same group of guys, maybe some new faces, but it's the same Droppin the Hammah brand. As Cedric Hunter starts to pounce, he is making inroads on your race leader, Steven Maggio. He's kept the Cairo, New York native honest, and now is where he will strike first and strike hard. The Hello Kitty machine points to the bottom inside in the look for the lead.
And Maggio's going to keep him right there, trying to get him to get off the throttle here, and it works out because Maggio is able to hang on, drives a little bit away from the 45, but in the process, it kind of invites the 23 of Zachary Hall into this. And Lawson Peel lurking just a little bit further back. Nobody's really been able to pull away from the front of the field at any point tonight. That you definitely expect the cooler track conditions, the low track temps, and higher grips to be playing a role into this, as there's Zachary Hall now peeking to the inside of his teammate for the title contending spot.
Looking for the championship lead, and it's between teammates North Carolina versus Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Zachary Hall down the bottom. Can't quite make it stick. Cedric Hunter will stay up in 2nd. But again, no time to flinch, no time to make mistakes. If you're any one of these championship 4, they are all still within the realm of each other's grasp, and several tenths of a second is the difference. It has been so close all night long. I think the most separation we've seen from these 4 was at the drop of the green flag when we started this race. Even though Cedric Hunter, Lawson Peel didn't take time in qualifying, they were kind of around each other, but there was at least more separation. Caution will come out with 70 laps to go. Oh, and it is a crucial hit. Stephen Harlow, one of the best cars all night long, gets involved in a huge accident. That's a lot of damage on the front end.
It looks like it was a situation that he got loose and overcorrected it into the outside wall. You see the damage on the right front of his car. It's big damage. He's trying to get it right in the proper direction. Look how much the wheel has to turn right for it to go straight. That thing is tore up. He's going to have some significant damage repair on that race car. Probably has a meatball flag and has to get some required damage repairs on top of the optionals just to even be competitive. It's going to be a tough night for this 11 to continue, as we'll get the replay up to show you the incident itself. He was battling with Warren Kyle Keith. He was on the inside of the 78, and he goes for turn 1 on the inside, and then right about here, car just steps out from him, catches the apron with the left front, and that's enough for it to turn into the opposite direction. And look at Craig Parks. I think he might have gotten a piece of that. You saw the sparks fly with the contact. We'll see if we can get an onboard look from the 17. But that easily could have been a lot worse for the 17, but an unfortunate impact for the 11.
And this reminds me of what happened in Charlotte. You remember that first race of the playoffs?
Yeah.
Where Harlow was in a similar position near the apron. And indeed, Craig Parks did get a bit of a hip check damage there on the right side of the car. A huge, staggering moment for the 11 of Stephen Harlow. It will bring the field down pit road. Justin Erb is going to stay out. So we'll keep that in mind. A similar situation to what we saw with Richard Swavely. However, this should be the final pit stop on fuel. Tires will matter, but inside 70 laps to go is where things are going to be heavy. Lawson Peel on a 5.9 second stop. I think that's fuel only.
Yes, that is fuel only for Lawson Peel, and everybody else takes 4 tires, Kenneth. That is I don't know. I feel like Tony Romo saying that. I don't know, Kenneth. That's it's a good call to get the track position. We saw Richard Swavely with the older tires earlier in the race hang on a decent bit. But this is a little bit more tires, or a little more laps on his run than even Richard Swavely did, and they were all under green flags. So I'm not sold on this strategy. The fuel is going to be close to get to the end, much like the 4-wide championship in that one. So if this race goes green flag to the checkered, I'm not so 100% sold that this might be the right call. He's definitely going to be hoping for a couple of yellows. Maybe he's trying to get some kind of tire advantage, hoping that a caution comes out maybe 30 laps from now, everybody comes back in for a tire set, and he saves that set for a possible green-white checker. That's the only thing I can think of.
It is a gutsy call for the 9-time winner this season in search for a championship, and he's going to give it all that he's got on a no-tire call. Justin Erb is also going to get no tires, and if you were listening on board with Peel, he's saving fuel under this yellow, so perhaps he believes he will be a little bit close to the checkered. Perhaps the entire field may be in the same ballpark.
They all are.
So yeah, 5.9 for Peel, 14.5 for the next driver who was starting third, Zachary Hall, and everybody, like you said, Francisco took 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, apart from these 2 that'll line up the front row. So it is going to be wild once we get this restart, and Peel perhaps just praying that a right-timed yellow will turn this race on its head and give him the upper edge, but I don't know. If this race goes green, Peel is in a boatload of trouble.
And I don't know if it's just him. I mean, I say him because of the tire call, but in reality, the entire field, if nobody came in to top off, and even those included, you're asking a lot to go 67, maybe 68 laps on an entire fuel tank around the Homestead-Miami Speedway. That is, like I said, on the upper edge of being able to go there with the 100% fuel. We saw the 4-wide championship being determined on saving fuel, and it was Brandon Hawken that was able to get it done here. Do any of these 4 have that kind of capabilities? As we're back under green, Erb gets a great launch. Lawson Peel struggles to get going. Remember, he is on older tires, much like that 20, and it's Zachary Hall that's immediately going to try to put the pressure on to get by this number 9 machine into turn 1.
Not really what Peel wanted there. Right on the back bumper was Maggio, but there will be some distractions. Zachary Hall maintains a run up top. Warren Kyle Keith is there. He was running the boards right before the yellow came out and was putting himself into conversation for the top 5. He'll run up there with a chance to get to the outside of Zachary Hall as Maggio clears for third. So far, no real positive impact for those who stayed for the longest time in their pit boxes. They have not been able to catch up to Lawson Peel yet. Back into turn 1.
And I think the other thing that these guys are banking on is they're seeing a lot more attrition has happened in the last couple laps. There's only 10 cars or 11 cars on the lead lap currently. 10 up to speed as Peel goes to the inside. Erb with a little bit of a block. with 11 cars on the lead lap, there's just less of a chance of a yellow flag being waved, so this fuel strategy could be the way to go, but these tires can matter just as much as Maggio's already there. Herb fights back on the outside. This could get real tasty here in the next couple laps.
And book it. Lawson Peel tried to fight down low, had the nose ahead for the lead in turns 3 and 4. He will have the edge in 1 and 2, but does Herb fire back from the way up high side? As Peel wobbles loose, he takes the lead, shuts off Justin Herb's run. Steven Maggio is there to the inside for second.
Yeah, and look at Warren Kyle Keith. He's been making that outside work. We saw it on the onboard as Herb hits the outside wall, kind of pops off of it, trying to keep up pace as he'll end up losing the lead for sure as Maggio continues to try and fight that bottom. That could annoy the 97, seeing the 20 just run up there as Keith gets into the back of the 20. Herb is slideways into turn 1, gets into the outside wall again, but this time he'll lose that track position. You can't really do that too many times and get away with it.
Gives it up as he stays on the outside boards. Brandon Banks, Cedric Hunter, Zachary Hall made their way down to the inside, and it is one versus everyone. But again, these are non-playoff drivers, so this doesn't matter in terms of the fight for the championship. If the race were to end right now, Peel would have the title in his hands, but Steven Maggio is going to try and deal some dirty air as he looks for the lead. Deep setting into turn 1. Peel's going to run up the boards, trying to hold on as much as he can on only a fuel-only call from pit road. He'll have the run, stay up high, door-to-door for the lead here at Homestead.
And you're looking at the two drivers with the most wins this season. Lawson Peel with 9, Maggio with 4, trying to make it 5. He wasn't playoff eligible due to how late he joined, but you think about the fact that he got so many wins after joining that when we get that season 2 underway, that he will get a fresh start to the season. He'll feel like he'll have an excellent opportunity to go up against this 9 car and everybody else to try and make that championship push next time. But for now, takes over the race lead. Lawson Peel keeps that championship lead, but ever so slightly, those tires on the 23 and the 45 will creep up to him, much like those two that just went by him did.
Maybe thinking that the 23 and the 45 are saving their sets for right now, understanding how much of this race is left to transpire. Going to be 60 to go at the start-finish line with Maggio in front, Keith runner-up. And Lawson Peel still in command of the championship chase, although it is only just about a tenth or 2 between himself and Zachary Hall. There's Cedric Hunter, and this run off of turn 2 may just seal the deal for Lawson to keep the lead for now. Here comes Hall, fight to the inside for the championship top spot. He'll probably get it in 3. There's going to be defense from the Napa Auto Care Chevrolet, and it's prominent, but Hall will clear barely off turn 4.
And that clear moment there for him was purely based on that tire advantage, just ever so slightly drifting up, forcing the 9 to have to lift and rely on his lack of grip compared to the 23. And there comes Cedric Hunter now to the inside of Peel, who's trying to use that outside lane, which is a very beneficial tool. But like I said, in this case, just with the tire advantage on the Category 5 Esports Toyotas, it's just too much for Peel. He'll drop back to 3rd in the championship running as Warren Kyle Keith tries to make this a battle for the top spot, continuing to use the outside lane as he did ever since the restart. And soon enough, Lawson Peel is going to have his teammate Brandon Banks to join him.
So under 60 to go from South Florida. Maggio leads, Keith in 2nd, Zachary Hall now the championship leader in 3rd. While we are under this green flag stint, why don't we turn up the sounds and crank it up here on the KBueno Racing Network. Coming down to the final 50 here at Homestead-Miami, and what a fight for the top 3 spots we've been watching. As Maggio's contained the rest of the field for the most part, he has not been able to get the 78 machine of Warren Kyle Keith off of his back. If you were watching that onboard sequence with the Bass Pro Shops Toyota, he has been running the high side and up to the outside wall almost this entire stint. And it's worked out in some cases, it hasn't worked out in some, but he is still around, and Zachary Hall, leader in the championship, will try once more to get down to the inside for P2.
He got the race lead in 1 lap, but then immediately went too high into turn 3 and got into the outside wall, and that relinquished the lead back to Steven Maggio. But you can see what continuous running, particularly in the early portion of this run, is doing to the 78. He has lost ground, and eventually now this 23 has gotten to the inside and is starting to run some better lap times than Warren Kyle Keith is, and is going to make this pass eventually on the number 78. What I was alluding to earlier about running the outside is you definitely would like to do that later in the run once the tires have worn out and you're running about the same lap time. Doesn't matter what kind of wear you run. At the beginning of the run, you definitely have to run where the car is not just faster, but where it'll save the tire to delay that eventual fall off, and that's not what he did here, and now he's starting to face a little bit of the consequences of wearing out those tires.
Well, let's talk about the different lanes you can use here at Homestead-Miami. This is the onboard lap from Francisco. You put this lap together, and I think this was a couple months back, but it's still the same principle of running down low versus running up top. What is that big difference in feeling-wise behind the wheel of this next-gen car, depending on what lane you run?
First of all, great run on the bottom there I had of putting the left sides on the paint, but it's so different running the bottom than running the top. When you run the bottom, it's just about wrapping the car down there and making sure that the car is under control, that you don't really get all that loose, and that you just keep it on there. And then in turn 4, it's such a late exit that you have to make sure that the wheel kind of gets straight before you're ever on the straightaway. And then once you jump up to the outside, it's such a different technique of running, which I didn't really figure out until earlier this year properly on how to really go about it. You can't go full throttle. You almost want to keep the wheel steady and straight and allow the car to turn itself. That way you don't use up as much tires as you otherwise would. And then in 3 and 4, you really have to get up there to really make advantage of it. You have to wait until this bump right there, and then you can really put the throttle down. I didn't realize just how much higher you can go on the racetrack, especially on the entry to turn 1, until I heard Kyle Larson's or Dale Jr. talk to Kyle Larson on the Dale Jr. download, talking about there's a little bit of a gap to the outside wall that forms in turn 1, and I talked to you about this as well. It kind of goes outward momentarily. You don't really notice it. We'll see if on the wall you can kind of make it out. Right about here, it goes outward a little bit, and Kyle Larson would follow that contour outwards, and that's what allows him to get those great runs on the outside, all the way next to the wall from corner entry all the way to corner exit. So when I learned about that, I tried it out, and Lord behold, it really does work.
It's such a cool little detail, and only things that, you know, the top race car drivers in the world will understand. That is what separates the best from the rest. And for Kyle Larson here at Homestead, he has easily become one of the more dominant drivers at this type of speedway. You get the onboard look from Cedric Hunter. Now Warren Kyle Keith is starting to drain off the time despite running the boards every single lap. Hall makes his way down low. He'll search for second. Cedric Hunter moves his way to the podium spot. Look at that VR setup for Cedric Hunter tonight. And Brandon Banks, Lawson Peel, they really haven't been able to creep up on these two cars. You know, Peel, even on the oldest set of tires and on his stint to stay out as long as he did, he has been able to maintain pace, but it just hasn't been enough to separate amongst the group. And he's really hoping that a yellow flag could come out, or that strategy will kick in inside the final 46. Now reignites the battle for the lead. Here comes Hall through the middle, the same lane that has given him all the pace in the world inside this top group. He'll nose ahead off turn 2 for the lead.
He's been patient, and now he's gotten the top spot away from Steven Maggio. But I think the biggest thing for Lawson Peel is that it was going to hurt him too much on the short run with those older tires, that he was going to lose the position to his rivals, but he wasn't going to really gain much of anything by saving the tires as much as possible towards the latter portion of the run, just because of the amount of laps that he has to contend with on the difference on that side of things. So as Warren Kyle Keith has driven the tires out of his race car, as he continues to slide on the outside, and Branks is starting to catch up to the 78. As the 78 gets loose from time to time running this lane, eventually Lawson Peel can get by that 78 and work his way up into the 5th place spot. I just really don't see a way how, without the help of a caution flag, that he actually ends up passing all 3 of his competitors on this very run with this current tire set.
Just all based on discipline here, and with that one call to gain track position, it seems like that things are starting to dissolve very quickly for the Columbus, Mississippi native, as the rest of the championship competitors start to pull away. Lawson now almost in his own island as Warren Kyle Keith continues to bleed off more lap time. And look at how much distance there is back to another lead lap car. It goes all the way back to Richard Swavely, who is a total of 3.3 seconds back of the race leader. He's nearly 2 seconds behind Lawson Peel. And then it's nearly 6 seconds back to Justin Erb. Then another 4/10 back to James Kunkel. And then another 7.5 seconds before you end up with that final car in the top 10 for D Legacy Motor Club in Casey Neiden. And those 10 are the only drivers on the lead lap. DNFing in this race, Jeff Gilmore, who's 13th, Alex Muscarello, 14th, Kevin Roy, 15th, Brad Fulham, and Daniel Holdcroft back to 17th place. Big move and the chance for a runner-up championship spot as Brandon Banks enters down low, looking to stick with the 45 car down the straightaway.
This is the battle for second in the title run, third on the racetrack. As looking at the last couple of laps, Cedric Hunter has struggled here trying to keep up pace. And the fastest car on the racetrack are your top 2 in the running order. Banks will slide up to try and get in front of Cedric Hunter. And Banks has a big moment, slides down off the corner. He's going to lose the spot to the 45. And now he's going to be back into this battle with Warren Kyle Keith and Lawson Peel as he tries to recoup.
Oh, big trouble there as he nearly closed out the run from Cedric Hunter and is going to have to maintain this position in front of Warren Kyle Keith, who's maintained high side momentum, but a blunder there for Banks as he was running down low looking to clear car number 45. Here's a look at it. Just fine margins. They make contact once, they touch again, and thankfully that didn't get much worse than it ever was, but for Banks, it's going to be a big time fall off on a run in which he has slowly made progress. Now he's going to have to make it up in a much quicker span of time.
And that's what's tricky about doing that kind of move with this car now. You don't really want to actually fully clear the car up in front because you run the risk of getting air packed on corner exit with a lot of wheel onto the race car, and that could equal a spin, which is nearly what happened to him there, and he was never really properly in front of the other car. So you think about it, you want to try the slide job. You either have to fully clear and get multiple car lengths in front and then slow the car down, or kind of just threaten that you're going to get up there in front of them and just hope that they check up for you. Otherwise, you actually could be going around yourself just by getting up in front without the car behind ever touching you. So it's definitely tricky games. I don't think that's a feature that'll stick around for much longer on the sim. Hopefully in the September build, they kind of nerf that aero packing effects. It's certainly a little bit extreme, especially on the warmer track temperature racetracks. But regardless, that's still something these drivers have to contend with, and it's still going to play a huge role possibly in these final 40 or so laps, as Maggio has not really allowed the 23 to get away despite being passed for the lead, and they're now starting to run slower lap times than Cedric Hunter, who's slowly but surely starting to reel these leaders back in within 0.8 of a second.
And as they cross the line, Maggio and Hunter are 2 of the fastest cars in the top 5, and Maggio has Hunter beat by just a little bit. 33.485, Hunter a 33.499. So the tire saving effort for Hunter is certainly coming into play. And that has mattered in the talk about these 2 teammates. You know, you ignore Stephen Maggio here and you think Zachary Hall and Cedric Hunter. You wonder back to Darlington in a race where Zachary Hall was right on strategy, but fresh tire power of Lawson Peel beat him at the end. Not only did Hall fall back to second, he fell back to third just because Cedric Hunter had the better car over the long run. He was able to save more of his stuff by the end of this race. And it almost appears that there's a mirror image going on right now, that Hunter enables that longevity, which he's able to stay up front and consistently put in laps, to which Hall hasn't been able to match at least as much and as often as his teammate does. But Hall coming into this race with the most runner-up finishes of anybody in the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series' inaugural season, but with a lot of high hopes and a lot of high praise for the competition. He told us that before the show tonight that all it would take is just one walk-off victory this evening, and that would erase all of the pain from all of those second-place efforts in which he thought those races got away from him. He is now coming down to what's going to be 35 laps to go until a championship shot.
I've watched a lot of sports in the 23 years I've been alive, Kenneth, almost, and let me tell you, if there's anything that delivers a perfect crowd pop, it is a walk-off home run, and that's the kind of performance that a late championship effort like this by the 23 can provide. He's finished second more than anybody else and has never been to victory lane in this series. What would it mean for a driver like this in the finale to capture the win in the biggest race of the season?
And we've understood that even with all of those runner-up finishes and even without a race victory, the only driver in the championship for not to have a win this year, that he was going to be a contender. He was always going to be good. It was mostly going to be bad luck that would take him out of a potential shot at a race like this. But he survived through the hardest round of them all. In the round of 8, the past 2 weeks, Talladega and Echo Park Speedway surely gave him a run for his money. He's loose in 1 and 2. Inside goes Maggio for the lead.
Eventually the air was going to get to him, and right there, that was just enough to get him sideways. Did a great job of not overcorrecting it, not overstepping the car, as he's still a little bit sideways in front of his teammate. But what that does is now puts Maggio in the race lead, and it puts his teammate on his tail with 33 laps to go to battle for the championship lead.
Mano y mano. 2 teammates now putting up the storm of a lifetime. And what we've seen out of Zachary Hall, he runs that middle lane, he gets aero packed because everybody runs the white line. And it already happened with Maggio. It could happen again with his teammate.
Man, and this is such a tricky spot to be in now, because you know you're starting to get late into this race. You want to win the championship. Each driver individually wants to win the championship, but as Hunter, look at Cedric Hunter, how sideways he was off of turn 4. But what makes this so tricky, Kenneth, is how do you race a teammate for the championship? What actually goes through your mind? I mean, there's honestly not much talking that gets involved in it. You don't really say much as you're just so locked in the moment. But I'm just curious as to what could possibly be the thought process. Are you thinking about what kind of move to make? And you also have to think about, if I make a move and it hurts us both, what does that do to the teammate relationship?
That's a big question mark, and something that teammates still really can't grasp in the format like this, because, you know, in a point situation, it's more about, all right, if we're close enough on points, we'll race for it. But for the most part, there are mathematical shots and then mathematical dismissals. But in a championship format like this, you don't need to win the race. You don't need to think about, if I finish 6th or better, I'm going to walk away. No, it's finish ahead, and that's it. Doesn't matter if it's by a hair. Doesn't matter if it's by a full track length. It is just finishing up front. And I'd imagine between these two, there is so much respect between Hall and Hunter, as they've worked so well with each other. Cohesiveness all across the board at the super speedways, and even at the intermediate tracks, how they've been able to play off each other's strategy and work well to move up front as a unit. I don't think there is going to be any animosity between these two. I don't think there's going to be any dirtiness between these two, Francisco. I'd imagine if Hunter had a shot at the white flag to try and beat Zachary Hall, maybe he wouldn't deal him the bumper and try and wreck him for the title. However, there have been conversations we've had with Hunter in which he told us, I wasn't aggressive enough at the front. I wasn't aggressive enough to go for the victory. I should have been more aggressive. Is that time now with under 30 to go?
I think you can ask anything in a calm-mannered sense before anything is really in its proper sense, and you can give any kind of answer. I think when they're here in the moment, 20 laps to go in this race, and you're battling each other for the championship lead, I think it doesn't matter what you said. I think you're looking out in front and seeing your objective, and you're asking yourself, what am I willing to do to get past this driver? It doesn't matter if you're teammates or not. What are you prioritizing? Do you want the team to win a championship, or do you want yourself to win the championship? It's a very selfish question to ask, but it is unbelievably true, and you have to ask yourself that question, because do you want to win it for yourself? Do you want your teammate to win it? It's a tricky spot. I've been in that spot many, many times, and I've been on the good side of it. I've been on the bad side of it. All I can say is there's never a right answer.
You know, Francisco, we've also seen it. You know, from the broadcast perspective, the 5 years we've been running here at the KBueno Racing Network, we've seen it all when it comes down to fighting for a title. LWRC NASCAR Cup Series Championship comes to mind. The contact in turn 3 on the white flag lap because of an overtime restart. You look at how Season 6 ended, a walk-off championship win for Ethan Fonseca Moreno in a points format. You think of Season 5 of 4 Wide, the way in which Jaden Porter was able to steal the spotlight because of an overtime restart. So many different ways of winning a title have come up here on the KBueno Racing Network, and this may be another entrant in the long history of Homestead-Miami championship finales we've seen on this network. And it's coming down to the wire. But I think, Francisco, there may just be a silver lining for Zachary Hall, because ever since that slip-up off turn 4 by Cedric Hunter, we haven't seen him within 2 car lengths since.
But there's still 26 laps left in this race, and a lot can happen in the second half of a tire run with 26 laps to go. And not to mention the fact that you still have to think about the fact that some of these guys still probably have to save fuel. You can see Lawson Peel's really drifted back. A lot of that has to do with the tires and probably trying to save some fuel. But a lot of these drivers are really trying to save some fuel in hopes of making sure they have enough to get to the end of the race. If a caution were to come out at any point between now and the end of the race, you expect the entire field to come down pit road and certainly take fuel, most likely put on a tire set, especially the 9 car. So if this does continue to stay green for this final 25 laps of this race, fuel, though I think they can all make it, is certainly on the back of their minds of trying to make sure, okay, do I have enough? Because I think the last thing you want to do in a situation like this is run out of fuel on this part of the racetrack and lose it all.
Yeah, it's tough if you end up sputtering off right here, and then it's a long straightaway. It's going to feel 100 times longer than it actually is, but you haven't been in that situation yet. And to note where the guys are on their strategies, the main group, all of them coming down pit road, lost in the exception of just fuel only. These stops happened 44 laps ago, so it's been a long while. And you don't think in 100% fuel that fuel's going to matter, that maybe making it to the end matters. Maybe here it does a little more, but for the most part, we haven't seen it matter. It's just about tires. It's about how much can you hang on, and when do they pop? Tire wear matters so much more than it ever did, because it wears down, the percentages go down much more, and it only takes one slide. It takes one heating up of the right front, right rear, anything to create more percentage wear over the run. And then when you get that meatball flag and the spotter tells you, we got to come in, we've got damage to the right front, we've got damage to the right rear, then that's disastrous news. And it will be heartbreaking in the final 22 if it ever happens to these front-running 3. But it's all good for now, with Cedric Hunter finally coming back into the picture, as Hall has kind of fallen off a bit, hasn't been able to keep touch with Steven Maggio as closely. 1, 2, 3, all between 4/10.
Brandon Banks has slowly been able to keep up. He's not right there in the immediate vicinity of the top 2 championship contenders, but he's about a second behind, which is just close enough that he's ready in case anything were to happen to any of the top 3 if they start battling each other, as Zachary Hall gets another run on Steven Maggio, but has not really been looking to get necessarily past this 97. He's been going to different lanes trying to get clean air, but he's had numerous opportunities to get side by side with Maggio, but hasn't exactly taken it. Probably in an effort to save some fuel, probably trying to see if on the straightaways he can maybe not go exactly full throttle. I'll tell you this, if that's what he's doing, that would be a very genius move on his part, as a very tricky way to save some fuel without really doing anything extracurricular as far as clutching and cushioning through the corners. He might be doing that too, but if on these corners he's not going full throttle, even if it's just 90 or 85%, great move if that's what he's doing.
Well, here's the onboard look. Our Charlie Bayer Photography onboard camera with the second place car of Hall.
But he is downshifting though, that's not going to help.
He's not electing to go on the outside or inside of Steven Maggio. And Maggio's going to slide in the middle of one. It will give Hall the race lead, but to the expense of the rookie and the 4-time race winner.
What a save by Maggio. He was sideways the whole corner, and he managed to hang on to that race car. He'll settle back down into the 4th spot, about 3 seconds behind. Oh, man. That looked like it was a bit of the aero packing going into effect. Turn 1 on the entry here is very tricky on normal circumstances, let alone when you have a car right up your bumper. Here's the overhead view. You'll see Zachary Hall close up to him, makes a little bit of contact, but backs away. And yeah, that is 100% a perfect case example of the aero packing is what it ends the 97 going into a sideways spin, but was able to save it.
And it's the second time that Maggio has gone sideways in the middle of 1 and 2. That first time, it was sort of unprompted up the high side and chased down the banking. This time, it's when in control of the lead, and it's just from that aero packing effect from the car right behind. So in turn, with 18 laps to go and counting, Zachary Hall not only is in control of the championship lead, but is in control of this race outright, and he is pulling away half a second to his teammate Cedric Hunter It's another full second and a half before he'll see Brandon Banks in the rearview camera.
And now this really makes it interesting because with approaching 17 laps to go, these teammates are battling for a race win and a championship, the highest stakes of them all. Does Cedric Hunter have anything left as far as trying to save both fuel and tires to try and make one last push for this title run? I don't think we've seen everything out of this 45 yet. He is still going to be very dangerous and could definitely pose another attempt or two at his teammate before it's all said and done.
Cannot express that enough, Francisco, that these guys are hanging on for dear life. These tires are more than 50 laps old. You can go longer, but you're going to be walking a thin line between two skyscrapers. It is going to be ultimately tough to hold on to the shoes of these race cars if we do not get a yellow flag from here on out. The fuel is not really a big concern. It's more about the tire wear and who can be the more disciplined driver out of the bunch. Does Brandon Banks still have some gasp left in him to push into these top two and make it a proper fight? Or is it the Canadian of Cedric Hunter trying to walk away with a drop in the Hammah Cup Series title with just 3/10 to spare to his teammate? They're running nearly the same line. That time Hunter gained. 15 to go.
And if these guys are tight on fuel, just for the race win purpose, Richard Swavely pit again on that last caution to top off on fuel, and he has been running 5th gear. So if these guys are this close to running out in the final laps, this 32 has a chance of winning the race if this stays green.
It's Hall, Hunter, Banks, Maggio, and Peel, the current running top 5. And this is all that separates the front running 2. Just a car length or 2, and Hall is getting loose even more out of turn 4. We saw a near same slip up a couple laps prior, and it's allowed the teammate to reel in just a little bit closer. And I don't know, Francisco, if I envy being at the front running spot, because it happened to Maggio, it could happen to Hall very well the same. Just getting aero packed, proper placement of the race car behind could get you sideways, and then it's going to turn rolls, of course, but it could be enough to get Hunter the championship if he gets that close and he just pushes his teammate aerodynamically wise. He's nearing that threshold, and he's just about there for the lead. 13 laps to go from Homestead.
That back end was dancing around in turn 4, and trust me, Cedric Hunter knows it. He knows that if he gets close to his teammate that he'll get him sideways, but you can see that's why Zachary Hall's willing to give him that very bottom lane. He is not trying to have that happen to him, but eventually the games will start to be played in these final 12 laps because you see it. It's right there in front of Cedric Hunter, the chance to win this championship. And it is going to be very exciting stuff as the 23 slips up a little bit off of turn 4. That could invite the 45 to go make a move down the front straightaway.
Does Hunter flinch? Does he go down low? For now, the answer is no. He'll stick with his teammate as they come down to 12 laps remaining. And now the caution flies. A pivotal yellow at the end of this race. And who is it involved? Is it Craig Parks down the straightaway?
Oh my. Caution flag late in this one. It was always going to be a struggle to see this one go out to the end. And I'm not too sure who exactly brought out this caution. I didn't see anybody sideways on the racetrack. But iRacing itself threw a yellow flag. This was not an admin thrown yellow. Failing to see anybody. Oh, it was Warren Kyle Keefe actually off of turn 2. He had been running the high side the entirety of the run, and eventually the car just kind of went sideways on him. Spins down to the bottom of the racetrack. You can see it right there. Spins around, hits the inside wall. He's well off the racing surface. So I'm very curious as to how that brought out the caution flag there, Kenneth.
You know, we saw it earlier with Brad Fulham. We even saw it with Kevin Roy. But in the case of Roy, he came right back up the racetrack with a soiled race car. He had come above the apron. And on most cases in oval racing on iRacing, if you spin below either the yellow line, the white line, whatever separates the main racing surface from the apron, if you spin underneath, more often than not, iRacing as a unit will not throw the caution flag because you are not interfering with the race traffic. Here at Homestead, they paved over that back straightaway. iRacing replicated that. It used to be just grass, and then it became more pavement and grass, and now it's just all pavement. Maybe it's just one of the features of Homestead. You spin down there low enough, the yellow is going to come out anyway. But here we are with everyone down pit road and this can be the money stop. Who gets out ahead, who takes the risk, and who ekes out in front. It looks like 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles for the entire running of the championship group. Brandon Banks is going to beat Hunter and Peel. Not going to get close enough to beat Zachary Hall off the pit lane, but what a stop by the South Carolinian.
That's a great pit stop to jump Cedric Hunter. Maggio gets back in front of Cedric Hunter too, so that gives the front row 2 title contenders. Then you have to go all the way back to 6 to find the next one in Lawson Pugh. Richard Swavely will find himself up into 5th for this restart, as everybody obviously was going to take 4 tires there with those used tires, really. And now we're going to have a restart inside of 10 laps to go with no fuel concerns. Which line does Zachary Hall take for this restart? The 45 of his teammate will line up on the outside. We'll see if he decides that his teammate lining up behind him is worth taking that outside lane.
Whatever word is used to categorize something that's more than abused, I'd use that word right now to describe the state of the tires before this yellow. They were all over this Homestead-Miami Speedway, and now is when we are going to get a restart inside 8 laps to go, with Hall the leader, Brandon Banks the defender, Cedric Hunter, Stephen Maggio, and Lawson Peel the top 5. Things haven't really changed amongst this group. It's relatively the same from the running order we saw prior to the yellow, but they've all got fresh tires to spare. Francisco, are we seeing chaos here or no?
Yes, the field has been bunched up once more. We're under 10 laps to go. The prize is out there. I think even the non-title contending cars, though they don't want to interfere with the championship, they're still trying to win a race, and this 97 is definitely capable of still winning this race. So I think it's going to be a delicate balance to sit in this spot in the sandwich of 4 title contenders, but I think right now everything has kind of gone out the window. I think it's all about just running as fast as you can in these final 8.
And there are only 3 rows occupied. 6 cars in this group at the moment. 7th place Casey Neiden is just about to catch up, and there are only 7. Now 8 machines, now 9 and 10, but the rest of them are single file. It's still a shallow group of machines with potentially the last restart on the line to win a championship.
And there they go.
Green flag with 8 laps to go, and the teammates work in tandem. Harmony into turn 1.
That allows Zachary Hall to get clear of Brandon Banks. Now Cedric Hunter on the outside of Banks as Peel looks to the outside, 3 wide for second.
Will he get it? He's used this line to maintain, and he's put in the wall by Cedric Hunter and shut out in the fight for 3rd place. Stephen Maggio, the only non-playoff driver in this group, trying to put his name in the ring as Brandon Banks settles behind Zachary Hall. 7 laps to go at the stripe.
They were 3 wide with the 97 of Stephen Maggio. That's how Lawson Pugh ended up in the wall. Now here comes Cedric Hunter to the inside of Stephen Maggio, trying to take over 3rd place in this race. Maggio tries to fight it back. Banks goes to the outside, gets into the outside wall. Now Hunter side by side for 2nd there as Swavely and Peel go battling for 5th.
Again, all of this is helping Zachary Hall pull away to the tune of 0.4 of a second. But the teammate in Hunter, who was nearly preying on his fellow friend in those final laps before the yellow came out, is going to clear Brandon Banks. 2nd place in the championship secured for a moment. Brandon Banks will fight back on the high side, and we're door to door for nearly 2 rows deep. 6 to go.
And this is exactly what Zachary Hall wants to see. As long as they continue to battle, this will definitely help his chances. But now his teammate gets clear. Now Maggio looks to get a run for 3rd place. All the while, Banks gets a run on Cedric Hunter. But with Maggio going to the bottom, what does Banks do? He checks up a little bit early. So now they continue to battle for 3rd on the racetrack. Cedric Hunter now has Maggio to his inside. They continue to battle behind Zachary Hall, who continues to drive away in this race. All the while, 5 laps remain.
5 to go from Homestead-Miami, and it could be a battle for the ages or a send-off for a first ever win and a first ever championship. Side by side, they'll go for 3rd. Peel takes away the spot from his teammate, tried to look under Stephen Maggio. They're wiggling down the back straightaway. Maggio is doing everything he can to try and move up as forward as possible with hopes that maybe something can get him to the Newport, North Carolina native. But it is 0.6 of a second that'll separate the Category 5 esports teammates. 4 laps to go.
And Cedric Hunter was quicker on that particular lap, not by much, but he was quicker. So now that he's clear of any battles, can he make up that gap? It's an awfully big gap, but he has time to work with.
And now they're all single file. It's plenty time for Hunter to creep up. And it can only take one mistake from this freaky fast Toyota Camry to set his championship hopes ablaze. Final 3 from Homestead-Miami. And now interior line. Steven Maggio will try it for second again.
And again, this is exactly what Zachary Hall wants to see, is now he has a buffer to the next title contending race car driver, as now Peel will look to try and battle Cedric Hunter for second in the championship.
A fantastic position that Hall is in at the moment, coming to 2 laps to go as Peel hounds on the Hello Kitty car in front. Steven Maggio, even if he gets close enough to Hall, that 23 car can allow Maggio to squeeze on by, and it will not matter. He just needs to stay ahead of these other 3 Green Banner cars to be called the champion. 2 laps to go.
And Maggio's been working that outside lane, been able to make up some time, but as long as he can fend off these battles, he should get clear, but they just aren't really able to form up a run, as now Peel gets up to the back bumper of Cedric Hunter. They're continuing to battle for second place on the racetrack. Maggio continues to close the gap for the race lead. He's working the outside lane, much like Warren Kyle Keith did, but off of turn 4 and coming to the white flag as Cedric Hunter slams the outside wall off of turn 4. He'll get passed by Brandon Banks. 1 lap to go for Zachary Hall to capture his first win and first championship.
Steven Maggio is 2 tenths behind, so there could still be a final effort. But Lawson Peel, Brandon Banks, and Cedric Hunter may just be too short despite their successes. And the driver, who has called himself second fiddle for nearly the entire season, has found a way to break through the ceiling and capture the all-time glory. Season 1 championship will go to Zachary Hall, winner and champion at Homestead-Miami.
Storybook ending. Homestead-Miami Speedway delivers once again, and this time, first-time winners. Zachary Hall wins the championship, capturing his first career win, first win of the season. Absolutely unreal. Shades of Daniel Hemrick.
An unreal finale for an unreal outcome. Zachary Hall captures his first ever Droppin the Hammah Cup Series win, and it comes at the pivotal time. A champion in 2025, he will visit Droppin the Hammah victory lane with the highest set of emotions. And this celebration, very well deserved. Oh, don't nose it in the outside wall. Zachary gonna try to keep it clean. But the 23 car and Hall will enjoy a championship in South Florida. You know, at the top of the show, we had that promo video say, sometimes defining a champion means someone who can break through the adversity and embrace being oh so close, despite not having a win. That was the epitome of Zachary Hall's season up until this moment. And in the final green flag run, where you had to hold on for your life on tires, and then in a final restart inside 10 laps to go where it was an all-out brawl, Zachary Hall sustains his lead, he sustains his composure, and now he will hoist the trophy for the very first time. Droppin the Hammah victory lane will welcome Zachary Hall with wide open arms, first career win, and a first career championship. What a drive by the Newport, North Carolina native, who will continue his celebrations. Catch a breath of relief as we'll get the celebrations underway in South Florida after 200 grueling laps and one of the longest screen runs we have ever seen happen in this series up until this point. Unofficial results from Homestead give you the championship winner and race winner in Zachary Hall. Career win number 1 comes in a final race to the finish line. Steven Maggio short of the win, but had such a strong car all night long. Lawson Peel, despite being at the back end of the championship 4 in a large part of stage 3 with that no tire call, somehow sustains to 3rd place, which is 2nd in the championship. Brandon Banks is 3rd in the title contention with 4th And Cedric Hunter, who had been close to his teammate in that final green run, just succumbed to the pressure there. Top 5 and final of the Championship 4. Richard Swabley survives for P6. Casey Knighton for D Legacy Motor Club wraps up the year with a top 10. Justin Urban 8th. James Kunkel 9th. Warren Kyle Keith, the cause of the last caution of the race, he will wrap up the 10th position here in Homestead.
Craig Parks will finish in 11th, 11 laps down. Stephen Harlow with the early issues finishing in 12th. Jeff Gilmore in 13th. Alex Mascarello finishing 14th with Kevin Roy in the 15th spot. Brad Fulham will finish 16th. Daniel Holdcroft will finish in the 17th position. And not turning a green flag lap tonight is the number 7 of Chris Progar, one of our league owners, in our 18-car championship field for tonight. But Kenneth, tonight and the whole entire offseason is going to be centered around our brand new champion, Zachary Hall.
A new champion, the first ever champion in this series, and he joins us now. Zachary, could you ever have believed that the season would go this way? Multiple runner-up finishes, multiple times where you've been so close, and tonight is the night that the racing gods give you the glory with this race and with this hold off for the title. What does it mean?
Whoa, yeah, I am speechless at this moment. Man, you don't give me chances to win championships, so you gotta cherish them. And like, I did not know this one was gonna come to me tonight. I had no real practice coming in, so I'm like, I don't know what to think. I haven't been very good at the intermediates. Kansas kind of gave me a little bit of a confidence boost, at least, and I think that a little bit of confidence boost helped. And again, I think I stuck to what I told you earlier. I was moldable, and I changed some stuff, and I found something there after that second stage because it just wasn't working. I know I led early there, but that was just clean air really. And I kind of think the daytime what I was doing was working a little better. So as the night came in, I changed a little stuff. I got a shout out to Stephen Harlow. I watched him for a little bit and I was like, I kind of like what he's doing. I wasn't shifting. So I was like, these guys are all shifting. Maybe I should just, transition to that and see if I can find something. And it kind of all clicked there. Right before I got the lead, before all that played out. I mean, the race was so long, but I'm just mind blown, man. I mean, to get a win finally after I don't know how many, I feel like I could have won, but it just didn't play out that way. But the wait for the last one, I knew this was it was going to be quite a moment. I'm glad at least I got the win. No one had to say at least I didn't win all season.
It's the monkey off your back in a huge way. Not only the win, but the championship. Let's rewind to those final few laps before that final caution came out. You are dancing around this racetrack with Cedric Hunter on your tail as Maggio makes the mistake in turns 1 and 2. How much pressure were you feeling in that specific moment, or how zoned in were you to try and carry this Toyota Camry home?
I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in our team room. It was silent. I mean, me and Cedric have raced each other since 2018. I mean, we've been best of buds. I mean, I love that guy. He's one of my best friends on here, and I knew it was going to be a battle. He's always so good at those like last 10 to 15 of like a fuel run, and I was like, man, if I can just keep him within distance. And even I didn't really want the clean air. I was stuck behind Maggio there, but he had that moment, so I kind of had to have the clean air for the final 20. And I saw he was reeling me in, and I was kind of stabilizing, keeping everything good, but. Yeah, I think it was going to be quite a battle. I think he definitely had something for me. I think if he would have passed me, I could have had a shot to get back by him because I was just a little too loose. Like when I got behind someone, I was actually like way quicker. I'd immediately find lap time again. So I felt like if he did get around me, I was going to have a chance, but it was going to be, I'd say, quite a battle. And I know it was going to be a clean one because me and him have raced each other for so long. It's just going to be very close door to door, but nobody leaning on each other.
And nobody could stop you, though, in those final laps. As soon as you got fresh tires, you sustained the pressure, and it's your first ever championship in the first season with your first win. Lots of firsts, but I'm sure it's all coming at the right time, and the emotions are absolutely through the roof. Let's bring in league owner Steven Stempien for some words for our champion this season, Zachary Hall.
Thank you, Kenneth. Zachary, on behalf of DTH, just want to congratulate you on a job well done. Get your first win, get the championship, well deserved, and very proud of you. I've raced with you a lot over the last 5 years. You've been my spotter for the last couple of seasons at Sunoco, watching me lose to Lawson, but hopefully that helped you this time around, and obviously got yourself a championship, and it's great to see. I very proud of the Final Four, especially Zach. He's a great dude, great driver, and He's going to represent that championship for season 1 very well.
Well, Steven, thank you, man. I gotta give you a huge shout out because I wouldn't be here without this guy. So definitely a shout out to him. He got me and Cedric to come over here and race with these guys, and it's been a pleasure. I mean, I can't be more happy to say I'm the champion of DTH, man. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the other guys who helped put it on with Steven. I mean, it's really been a pleasure, and especially you guys up in the booth too. I mean, I love going back and watching this. I can't wait to see how that all shook out because from in the car, you only get to see a little picture, man, but y'all provide such a bigger picture outside that is really refreshing to see.
All the love, Zachary Hall. Congratulations on this Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series Season 1 championship. A big thank you, Steven, for those kind words for our champion, and all the kudos to you and Chris Progar for putting this series together and giving us just a storybook year. Zachary, congrats on the title. Before we let you balance and celebrate this title, anybody that you want to give a shout out to or thank? I'm sure that list is very long.
Yeah, of course, like I said, you guys up in the booth, everybody puts the league on. It's always a pleasure with that. Shout out to Cedric, a teammate. We've ran every night together in this league, and we've not had the success we wanted really with wins, but I think we've shown out with the speed and being there, and we got it done at the right time. So I was happy to battle with him. Shout out to him for being such a good teammate throughout thick and thin with him. Shout out to all my friends and family watching. Shout out to my girlfriend out there. I know they're all watching, and they're excited about pulling this one off finally and getting the victory. So I'm sure we'll have a happy group to go back to there. Shout out to all my guys at WSSR. Shout out to all my guys at Cat 5. I mean, shout out to everybody who's tuning in, man. I really can't thank everybody enough. And also, shout out to Banks and Peel. Those guys are grade A, great competition. And Peel, I mean, heck of a season for him. I don't know how many wins the guy even got. I mean, he is amazing at being right there at the end to close these things out. So shout out to him. I know it stings not for him to bring the championship home after the season he's had, but he's definitely should smile because he was the guy to beat. So shout out to all the competitors.
All the love across the board, Zachary. Congratulations on the Season 1 Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series Championship on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network. Finally, the win's there. It comes at Homestead, and it's a championship effort, Zachary. Congratulations again, and hopefully we'll see you in the Gen 4 Cup Series, but until then, celebrate. You earned it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Zachary Hall walks away with the championship at season's end. A big thank you as well to Steven Stempian for all those kind words given to our champion this year. Let's turn it to our second place finisher. Non-playoff driver Steven Maggio gave it an effort and led a ton of this race. Francisco, he's caught up with you.
Well, Steven, it was a great race for you tonight. You were very competitive in the chance to win the race, obviously in the middle of the championship mayhem. What was it like battling against those championship drivers, and then also what was going through your mind in that green-white checker in your effort to try and win the race?
The first thing that was going through my mind was don't kill a championship driver and don't screw him over. And second thing that was going through my mind was I wanted to win, but Zach got really far out there and in a short amount of laps, and then we only had a very few amount of laps left after that, and I was ripping the top. I can't believe how good it was working. I felt like I was actually executing really well doing that. I never on the top, so I was kind of surprised that I was able to like pick it up really quickly and make it work. And then I was like, well, Cedric's, he's racing for the championship too, and maybe if he runs the bottom the shorter way around, and then I get a huge run and I bump him down the straightaway, we'll both catch Hall. And I realized quickly that wasn't working, so I passed him. And then I ran Zach down, but I just ran out of laps, so I felt like I feel like if I didn't try to bump Cedric those 2 laps, I might have had something for Zach, but I still would have had to be super careful racing him anyway, because he's racing for the championship, and God forbid I send it the tiniest bit too hard and make contact with him and he loses because of me. I'd be devastated, or he would be devastated, and I would feel super bad. So
Still a phenomenal effort from you tonight, Steven. Showed great pace all night long. You had 4 wins on your season, which was the second most behind Lawson Peel. So when we do get season 2 underway, whenever that may be, how do you feel about your potential odds at running the entire full schedule and how you think you'll fare in a proper effort in this series?
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I struggle to run full time on any of the weekend nights like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just because I'm not always home, and I'm not really sure what the plans are for next season. But if I do race, then I feel confident I can get a lot of wins. Like you said, I had a good amount of wins, and I only raced less than half the schedule. So, and I feel like I could have even really executed a couple of those races that I didn't win better. Yeah, so we'll see.
Phenomenal stuff, Steven. Second place here tonight. Anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you all season long for your 97 team?
Yeah, shout out to all the Championship 4 drivers tonight. Zach, Lawson, Brandon, Cedric. They all raced me clean all season, the races that I did at least. So shout out to them, and obviously shout out Zach, winning the championship. Daniel Henrik style, hadn't won all season and then wins the championship, so that's pretty cool. And shout out you guys in the booth. Stempian for letting me race. And once again, please pray for Jaden Porter's father. He's in the hospital right now, and he could really use all the prayers he can get. So that's about it.
Thank you, Steven. And of course, Jaden Porter, we're wishing the best for him and his family in this very important time. Thank you for your time here, Steven, and we appreciate everything you've done this season with your 4 wins, and we hope to see you out next time.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Steven Maggio, runner-up, Kenneth, and very important, he said that Jaden Porter having those issues with his family, driver that we've seen many times in this channel, hopefully everything is going all right, and we wish everybody the best involved in that particular situation.
That's true. All love to Jaden Porter and his family as they go through this time, and we appreciate any other support from those watching on the YouTube chat. Let's bring in the third driver of the podium bunch, second now in the championship. It is Lawson Peel who will join us now. Lawson, you gave it your best effort. I want to first talk about that decision not to take tires on a yellow flag. It was a gutsy call, gave you track position. It ultimately set up for a restart where you all were on the level playing field. But overall, what are the emotions based on that call and how far it got you to the checkered?
Yeah, I mean, with less than 10 laps on the tires, I hate changing tires when they're like, 95% like that. Obviously, I should have. We had a lot of cautions leading up to that, but maybe a little too much hubris thinking I could hang with the guys on, if the tires went through a cycle. I did for a while. I just couldn't after a while. I don't even know if I would have had equal tires to them if I would have been able to, win that battle on the long run. I just don't think I was very good on the long run. I know y'all saw I just about busted my ass several times. Just kind of struggled a little bit getting the hang of it, and I'm just not a fan of this update. I haven't gotten my my head around it yet, and it's just kind of weird because it's like I've never known why the next gen suits me, and I've never known why the Xfinity car doesn't suit me, and how with other people it's kind of opposite, and I have no idea why pre-update I felt like I kind of had everything figured out, and after this update I'm just kind of out to lunch a little bit sometimes, so it's just kind of one of those things hard to explain. But that's racing, that's competitive sports. I mean, the conditions in the the playing field changes, so I'm all about it. I mean, obviously I was gonna be happy to see any 4 of us win tonight. Obviously, if I couldn't win, I was pulling for my teammate Brandon, but Cedric and Zach they were just real classy all season and drove lots of great races. Probably should have each won more races than they did, and we're just really good tonight, especially on the long run pace there. So congrats to Zach for winning the race and the championship. I thought I had maybe a little saving grace there with that late race caution, but just me and Cedric kind of had some contact off it too. That was my one opportunity. If I could have just kind of sailed around the outside and gotten all the way to like third, maybe I could have had something. But like Brandon and I were talking about, I mean, it was just wicked tight on fresh tires on the cold track there at the end with us all pushing the pace. We were just kind of sliding the front. So clean air was really valuable in that situation when we were all pedal to the metal. And I've known that, just from experience here before. So I knew it was going to be tough, but yeah, great season. I enjoyed the race tonight and all the races this season with everybody. So appreciate everybody for what they do.
Obviously, we cannot let you go without discussing how great of a season this was to start. 9 wins this season. It was unprecedented. You came into this one with the last 3 Sunoco Cup Series titles, and we knew you were going to be a name to beat for sure, but the dominance was surely there. even in the middle of the playoffs when the intensity was at its highest. So if there's any way you can kind of give those thoughts on how crazy, how great this season was for you, how would you best describe it? Because although it's not a championship tonight, it's very much a season worth remembering.
Yeah, just lots of really solid races. Just put together mistake-free races, and a lot of those wins, I think I capitalized on a lot of other people's mistakes. I don't know if I really should have won that many races, but I think it was a product of just having a good approach. I mean, bringing that same approach every week, and just knowing when to pick your battles and when to avoid chaotic situations, and yeah, put some good races together. I think I got lucky on a few other ones. I mean, like, I still have no idea how the hell I won Darlington. I didn't know if I didn't think I'd ever win a race at Darlington, and to win Darlington and then go just kind of get waxed at Kansas the next week was very. I don't even know how to explain that. I just if you would have told me that would happen, I would not have believed you. So this update is just it's kind of changed a lot. We'll see what the future holds as far as if they're going to kind of keep the bones of this thing, or if they're going to change a lot of the the core fundamentals of it. So we'll see. But yeah, great season. Proud of the results I put together, and just appreciate everybody that helped put it together and was a part of it and made it happen.
Lawson, an incredible season at NTR Homestead-Miami, but perhaps when Gen 4 Cup cars come around for the off-season series, it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe when this series kicks back up, maybe with a different car, maybe with the next-gen car, you'll be a big part of it as well. But Lawson, on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on making the Championship 4 and finishing second in this title chase. Anybody that you want to thank before we let you bounce?
Yeah, I've run a little bit of Gen 4 lately, and that's actually been pleasantly a lot of fun. So gonna have to continue to get some laps under my belt with that thing and just figure it out. But looking forward to that. And yeah, thank you, Kenneth. Thanks to everybody at KBueno Racing Network, everybody on the DTH admin team, all the viewers, everybody that helped sponsor and just support everything what we got going on here. Thanks to Joe Sanchez for doing my paints, and all my Drinking Bros teammates that I know are watching and supporting tonight.
Well, Lawson, we really appreciate the time, and hopefully we're able to talk to you soon. But until then, congratulations on the run tonight from Homestead.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
Lawson Peel ends up short of the title, but still a fabulous season that he put together at the end. Let's join the final driver, or rather the next driver. I believe we should be able to talk to Brandon Banks, but I don't believe he is in the voice chat. So let's get a word with the next driver in line. That is Cedric Hunter driver, the number 45. Francisco, you're with him.
Well, Cedric, it was another strong run for you, and you were in contention to get that championship in that late, long run versus your teammate. But ultimately, the caution came out, and then that ended up jumbling up the running order with a huge battle for second place. What was going through your mind battling your teammate there in the closing laps before the final caution, and then what was the mindset during those final 7 laps or so?
Yeah, I felt really good, obviously, before the caution came out. I was kind of struggling when Zach and Maggio, sorry, they were both in front of me. Like I don't know, the pace I guess wasn't fully there. And then when it was just Zach, and I think I had more clean air and stuff like that, like it was really starting to come back. And I was right there when the caution came out. I mean, I told Zach after the race, like, I think if the caution would never came out, I would have probably had him. I would have just air griefed him in the last couple laps. And I mean, eventually he would have wiggled. I mean, they all do. So it was there. I mean, I love Warren, but gosh, man, it freaking sucks that he brought that out. It's a bummer. And then felt confident once the caution, or once the restarts happened. I felt confident about my pace. Like all night, I had really, really good short run pace. And I don't know what happened. Like the refly came out and the speed just wasn't there. The car was really, really tight, but also really loose at the same time. Steven just kept getting massive runs on me and pushing me down the straightaways. That's how slow I was. So it was a bummer. And then obviously coming to the white flag kind of my VR decides to freeze when I'm side by side with Peel, and I couldn't see the corner, so I strained out the wheel because that's what I thought I had to do based on where I was in the corner, and I basically just lawn darted the fence. So tragic. I mean, I think I would have finished second in the championship, cost myself a decent amount of winnings from my understanding, so that's a bummer, but it is what it is, I guess.
Now that you completed the season, even though it wasn't the result you intended, when you look back on your season 1 campaign of dropping the hammer, what are some of the positives that you'll take away from it and take with you as we both move into the Gen 4 off-season series, but also season 2, which hopefully will be back up and running in 2026?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if there's much upside, I guess, other than the last few weeks. Like after we had the updates, everything prior to the update is kind of just in the past, and I can't really, take anything from that. But it was a really fun season. A lot of ups and downs, and a lot of races that could have gone a little bit better in our way if we didn't have late race cautions. Kind of like tonight, actually. So it's kind of the story of our season for the most part. So again, though, all in all, it was a really good season. It was really fun. I'm fortunate to even be making the top 4, and yeah, hopefully they do have a next season, and we can return.
And before we let you go for the evening, Cedric, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps make this happen for you and your 45 team?
Yeah, huge shout out to you all. First, I'll give a shout out to Zach. Congrats on the championship, bud. Well deserved. I was telling him, I guess, when Steven was in front of us, I was like, if you finish second, I mean, you do something that Ryan Newman could never do, and that's win the championship without winning a race. So didn't work out that way. Obviously, he had a win coming for a long time. So congrats on both the championship and the win. Huge shout out to you guys for doing everything that you guys do. As always, you guys are great. Shout out to the admins and the drivers for showing up tonight. Shout out to my beautiful wife for putting up with all my racing and stuff like that. I'm sure she'll be very happy that I have now Sundays free for a long time. So, and I guess shout out also to all my Cat 5 guys. I mean, we have Zach obviously in this league, but we have quite a large roster outside the league. So shout out to everybody.
Hey, I hear that. Those Sunday nights being free now, they're definitely going to be happy about that moving forward. We appreciate the time you take with us, Cedric. Congrats on a great season, and we hope to see you here soon.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So that does it for our Championship 4 drivers. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a full-on word with Brandon Banks as he finishes 3rd in the championship in position number 4 by the time that checkered flag comes out. So that will do it for all of us at the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series for Season 1. Francisco, what a campaign it was. I remember back when Chris Progar and Steven Stempian brought up the idea to bring this series to life because the Sunoco Cup Series couldn't keep going, and to think so many months later after Daytona, to think of the championship battle we would then have between these talented 4 drivers and the way in which Zachary Hall was able to walk them all off with the championship and his first ever win. Nothing short of spectacular this year.
We've had so many great moments all the way from Daytona the first time around till now, and just so many memories, so many iconic moments, so many ups and downs throughout the entirety of the schedule. And those Sunday nights, man, they've really created some excellent memories for not just us, but all these drivers and everybody that's participated in the series, even if it was just for one race. But now we get to put that behind us and look forward to a new chapter. We get to look and see what happens in that Gen 4 series starting up in September. We don't have an official word on when the Season 2 of this series, the official Season 2 that is, gets underway and what will look like in store. We don't have a schedule, we don't have dates, but I'm sure Steven Stempian and Chris Progar will get to work on that when they get back from their respective trips and when they get everything sorted out. We could expect to see that in 2026, possibly in January or February, much like this 2025 campaign started. And I can't wait to see when we get to that point. But I think the biggest thing is now we get to look forward to a brand new slate of races. We do have the KBueno Truck Series starting tomorrow night, which you'll be on the racetrack. I'll be up here in the booth, kind of swapping our usual roles, if you will. And then obviously continuing coverage of the SAC Cup Series on our Thursday nights, with the 4 Wide Racing Series returning once again Wednesday nights on August 20th for the duels, August 27th for the big main Daytona event. So a lot of activity still going to be occurring here in the month of August going forward, especially on this channel. Kenneth, it is a time like never before for us here on the KBueno Racing Network. And even though we're closing the doors here on Droppin' a Hammah, still exciting stuff and a lot to look forward to in the coming months to finish 2025.
Going to be a busy fall to end the year, and we are so happy to have you join us for those hopefully races with SAC Cup Series action and the KBRN Truck Series and the 4-Wide Series and whatever comes forth with the Gen 4 Series in September with the same Droppin' the Hammah group that brought us these phenomenal races throughout 2025. A huge thank you to Steven Stepien and Chris Progar for bringing this series to life and for bringing us the chance to cover this series in its very first edition. A huge thank you to everyone that made it out to a single race or all of the races this season. A huge congratulations to the Championship 4 of Cedric Hunter, Brandon Banks, Lawson Peel, and Zachary Hall of making it all the way here. And of course, Zachary Hall for winning the title at the end. For all of the lovely people at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Byer, Keelan Belsha, Eli Comerford, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacallao, I am Kenneth Bueno. As always, signing off. Good night from Homestead-Miami, and congratulations to Zachary Hall on the send-off championship victory here in South Florida.